All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I'm your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Okay, show this out, show this out, show this out. All right, we are live. It is Friday night in the North American continent and Europe, Saturday morning in New South Wales, Australia. It is 9 a.m. Saturday morning here in New South Wales, Australia. Let me take this media down off the screen so you can see me. There we are. I'm up on the screen. And as you can see, I started a new feature. If you look on your screen, if you're on the MP4 broadcast, you can see that the chat, Reese, welcome, brother. The chat is now going to be scrolling on the screen. It's a new feature that StreamYard has added. It was in beta testing. It is in beta testing, but I hadn't turned it on last time I was on, and this time I decided to turn it on. So you guys can actually see the chat now and see what comments that you're making and other people are making. And that makes things really cool for, let me put myself up in full screen here. That makes things really cool for doing StreamYard, like when the chat messages come into the studio, but sometimes you guys don't see them, like when I'm multicasting, because I'm live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I was going to go live on TikTok as well and set up another camera, but that would be a little bit hard to watch all the chat. So I'm going to go live at a different time on TikTok because we can't do it through StreamYard. TikTok wants you to go live through their app. So we can't go live on there, but it's okay. I'll go live and talk on TikTok at a different time. And then maybe do that at some point if I have somebody to help with the chat in there, because then I would have to look at the chat on the screen here or in the studio, and then look down to the chat in there as well to see questions. This way, everything feeds into here, and now it goes on the screen for you guys to see it. So if somebody on YouTube makes a comment, you guys will still see it on Facebook. So it's kind of cool that they're doing that now, and they're putting that up on the screen so people can see what's going on. Okay, so it's Saturday morning in New South Wales, and I'm back doing the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which I took last week off. A lot of stuff going on. I did go live last week, though, and talked for a few hours. I think that I go live a couple of days. I went live, I think, a day or two last week. So, but there wasn't doing the Emerald Tablets. It was, so that was just me channeling. So I'll be doing that more often as well, and I'll be doing that on TikTok. Okay, so we're on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Please share this out. I'm going to share this out in a couple of places. Let's get some people in here. Let me go over here again and share it out right quick. And we can get started, right? So let me see where I did not share it out yet. And now I'll share it out. Let's see. How about right there? Okay, so let's get some people in here. I'm going to go ahead and start. Let's do a sound check, right? Let me pull myself out of full screen here. And we'll go into full screen over here with the Emerald Tablets, and we'll go ahead. This is part 9. Part 9, but I think we're on 10. Let's see where we're on here. Yeah, we're on Emerald Tablet 10. So we're getting close to the end of it because there's only 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I think is the last one. Yeah, there's 15 tablets. So we're on tablet 10 starting now. So we're getting close to being at the end of it, right? Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead here and start it. We'll do a sound check. Reese, if you're still in the audience, let me know that you're in the audience. Please.
Emerald Tablet 10, the key of time. List ye, O man, take of my wisdom, learn of his deep hidden mysteries of space, learn of the thought that grew in the abyss, bringing order and harmony in space. Know ye, O man, that all exists as being only because of the law. Know ye the law, and ye shall be free, never be bound by the fetters of night. Far through the strange spaces have I journeyed, into the depth of the abyss of time, until in the end all was revealed. Know ye that mystery is only mystery, when it is knowledge unknown to man. When ye have plumbed the heart of all mystery, knowledge and wisdom will surely be thine. Seek ye and learn that time is the secret, whereby ye may be free of this space.
Okay, so the key to time, right? So now, we should look at that. If you look at all of the different names for all the different tablets, obviously, the name of it is the key to time. So that's what it's going to be about. It's going to be about freeing yourself from this place in time, right? So seek ye to learn the time in capital letters is the secret whereby ye may be free from this space. Long have I wisdom sought. Okay. So again, it is knowledge, it is wisdom that is going to help you, but time being something that is relevant to this place that we're in, because it is, it is the part, the only place where time exists, first, second, third dimension, fourth, fifth, sixth dimension, time starts to have less of an appeal. It's still there because you still have a physical body. So until you completely move into your light body and lose the physical body, time is still going to be a thing that you're going to have to endure. But things change, right? Things change when you move into your spiritual body, and I'm sure that is what we're going to have as the theme here as we go along. So let's continue here, okay?
Long have I, wisdom, sought wisdom, I, and shall seek of eternity's end, for know that ever before me receding shall move the goal I seek to attain. Even the lords of the cycles know that not yet have they reached the goal, for with all of their wisdom they know that truth ever grows. Once, in a time past, I spoke to the dweller, asked of the mystery of time and space, asked him the question that surged in my being, saying, O Master, what is time? Then to me spoke he, the Master, Know ye, O Thoth, in the beginning, there, and void and nothingness, a timeless, spaceless nothingness, and into the nothingness came a thought, purposeful, all-pervading, and it filled the void. There existed no matter, only force, a movement, a vortex or vibration of the purposeful thought that filled the void. And I questioned the Master, saying, Was this thought eternal? And answered me the dweller, saying, In the beginning there was eternal thought, and for thought to be eternal, time must exist. So into the all-pervading thought grew the law of time. I, time which exists through all space.
See, so time does exist everywhere. It's just that as the closer you get back to source, the more you're outside of time because you exist in a place that is not time. And this is why you see this, right? Before, right? Purpose of all pervading, and it filled the void, right? So there was a void. There existed no matter, only force, a movement, a vortex, or vibration of the purposeful thought that filled the void. So there was nothingness. There was void, right? You hear some people use that word void in the ancient. You hear that in the East they use the word void instead of the word there was nothing, or ether. The Egyptians or the Greeks said ether. They still do that in science. They still call that the ether. They just stopped referring to it weirdly in the 80s or 90s as ether in science. Before that, they still talked about that. Literally at the turn of the century, Nikola Tesla was still talking about the ether bed and the theories of whether the ether was coherent ether or non-coherent or mechanical ether. And so they were still referring to it up until the turn of the century. And now here we are, that was in the 1900s. So 125 years later, things changed. In the 1960s, 1970s, they still did. So literally, when you look at the 90s going into the 2000s, at the turn of the next century, 25 years ago, things that you just don't hear them saying void, ether. They don't refer anymore out loud to the public about that which is the thing that all things are attached to, because of the whole Star Wars thing and talking about the force that binds everything together, which people were starting to talk about, like myself, and equating and showing you that the tree of life is that Yggdrasil, the tree of life, that is the force, is what they're referring to in the Star Wars movies as the force, that energy that binds everything, which is the body of the universe. And when people started realizing and talking about it, especially in 2017, 2016, in Above Majestic, where there is this in this this interconnected coil of energy. Right. Let me put myself back up in full screen here. That connects and binds everything. They were talking about that, how when we detonated nuclear weapons for the first time, hydrogen and nuclear weapons for the first time on this planet, that the shock wave traveled this pathway, this neural network in the universe, and that aliens from other places were then alerted to us being at a certain level of technology because they travel upon that neural network. Okay, so we have this whole idea of the Einstein-Rosen bridge, right? Joshua, welcome. Yeah, see, I like this because now those of you that are on Facebook can see on the screen, if you're on the MP4 broadcast, wherever you are, you can see the comments in YouTube come up on my screen, and you guys are seeing my screen on your screen now down in the corner, right over here, right? You guys can see the chat. So that's good, because those of you on Facebook before were going, I can't see the chat. I can't see what the person was saying on the other from the other thing, because weirdly, like Instagram still doesn't come into here. Okay. So I don't know why. I think maybe you, see, and my live video ended over there for some reason. Not quite sure what happened there. It says that it ended, but it's still going, which is weird. It says, oh no, that's just the button. Okay. So I'm like, what is going on over there? It looked like it was frozen and now it caught up. Okay. I thought that it had ended. Okay. So what you see here is, let me get back on point. So what you see here is the conversation. Let me put it back up on the screen so you can see about this void, about this nothingness. So what was happening, and this is why they stopped talking about the ether or anything that had to do with the void or that area of what's going on in the universe, because people were starting to get onto that, and people like myself were starting to show you that place, that place that they were referring to, the void that you see on the screen here being used as that word, the ether, is the neural network of the universe. That's why, if you look at the intro to my show on the MP4 broadcast, because if you're on the MP3 broadcast, you just hear the music. You don't see the visuals that I have. But if you watch the MP4 broadcast, you will see that I have an image there that shows you I've talked about this many times, a radio image of a single brain cell and a radio image of the universe. And you will see that they're identical, except for the universe is far more complex. It has a nuclei, a central point, and it has ganglia. It has a neural network that comes out from that, which is the universe, which are galaxies and the like. And it acts exactly the way our neural network and our brain works. Okay, so when you hear about the people in the past in other religions, and put myself back up on full screen again, in the religions talking about the tree of life, okay, the tree of life. And when you look at the flower of life is like, if you were to say, take a fiber optic line, and the fiber optic lines are the tree, the neural network, the endocrine system, the electrical system of my body, right? And each nerve ending is a neuro pathway that is, say, a fiber optic line, okay? If you were to take that fiber optic line and you were to, go to the end of it or cut it and look at the end of it and look at that. If you were to do that with a fiber optic line, if it were alive, you would see light coming out of that. But if you were to look very, very closely at that neural network fiber optic line up close with a microscope, you would see the flower of life. Okay, because it is light that's in there and it is reflecting, you're going to see that pattern. Okay, so if you take the neural network of your nerve ending and you focus on that and you look at it under a microscope, you're going to see that it's the same thing. It's an electroneural network that has energy that flows through it that goes to all of your entire body. If you look at the neural network of the tree of life, when people draw the tree of life, the Vikings drew it as a live tree with all of its neural network tentacles going into the ground, and then the trunk, the central point, the 0 point, and then all of its neural network going out above the ground with leaves all over it. Okay, that's the same as your endocrine system going from the central nervous system in your body that we call the endocrine system, that then goes to the brain and goes to the body. Okay, so if you look at that, and I made a reel about that a couple of years ago, where I described it as life is life, and I show you the Yggdrasil, the tree of life. I show you the Egyptian, I'm sorry, the Hebrew and Chinese tree of life. So I'm going through all the different trees of life. Then I show you the Celtic tree of life in many facets, that they have the tree of life that everyone sees. It's in a circle with the tree, which looks like an oak tree, the tree of life. And then I go to the 9 worlds, plus the tree is 10. You see that in Yggdrasil. The 10 bodies of the tree of life, according to the Hebrews, the Asians, the Egyptians, the Greeks. Okay, 10 again, counting the body of the tree of life. Those numbers are important. 7 chakras, right? Then when you show you the endocrine system, and you see the endocrine system, and you see what? 10 organs, including the body, the epidermis, and the body. Okay, so you have the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the tongue, the heart, the lungs, the genital, the stomach, the intestines. When you count all of those, if you freeze frame, Mike, because it's only like a 45-second video or a 30-second video, but if you freeze frame and you look at that and you count the bodies, count the worlds, the Viking worlds that they have, there's 9 worlds plus Valhalla, 9 worlds plus, or 8 worlds plus Valhalla and the tree. Then you look at the tree of life from the east, and there's 10. Again, if you read what each one of those mean and what the different Utenheim and the different planets are, the different realities, Earth being one of them, okay, Midgard, you realize that they're talking about the endocrine system inside and outside. So for the universe, it's identical, as below, so above. So the universe has neural pathways. Our brain cell has neural pathways, and the cell is identical, okay? So time works in motion. Let me get back on point here and go back to the thing, and we'll continue from here, okay? Time works on motion, but it also works on electricity and magnetism, because you have to move things. So there was nothingness, right? And then there was a thought, and the thought, right? There existed no matter, right? There was a void. Now I'm reading this from the Thoth the Atlantean, this tablet 10. There existed no matter, only force. The force. Think about that. Where did what's his name get the idea for the force for Star Wars? Right. Only force, a movement, a vortex, or vibration. Okay. So now you have energy, frequency, vibration. 3, 6, and 9. Energy, frequency, vibration, movement, vortex, or vibration of the purposeful thought that filled the void. Okay? So literally, you're looking at a neural network of time, because time, it takes time when there's a thought. And he said that right in here. Okay? Because there was thought, there had to be time. So let me get us back up, right? They filled the void, and I questioned the master, saying, was this thought eternal? And answered me the dweller, saying, in the beginning there was eternal thought. And for the thought to be eternal, time must exist. So into the all-pervading thought grew the law of time. Okay? Peter, welcome, brother. Joshua, welcome. I don't know if I said welcome. Deborah, I don't know if I said welcome. Now you guys can see the chat on the screen, so feel free to, when you're talking, now you can actually see each other talking across platforms, okay? So time had to exist because of that, okay? So the law of time, time which exists through all space, floated into a smooth rhythmic movement. Let's continue here, okay?
Floating in a smooth, rhythmic movement that is eternally in a state of fixation. Time changes not, but all things change in time. For time is the force that holds events separate, each in its own proper place. Time is not in motion, but ye move through time, as your consciousness moves from one event to another. Aye, but time yet exists, all in all, an eternal one existence. Know ye that even though in the time ye are separate, yet still are one, in all times existent. Ceased then the voice of the dweller, and departed I to ponder on time. For knew I that in these words lay wisdom, and a way to explore the mysteries of time. Oft did I ponder the words of the dweller, then sought I to solve the mystery of time. Found I that time moves through strange angles, yet only by curves could I hope to attain the key.
Okay, so here again, with this metaphor, we're talking about the angles and the curve. The angles are masculine energy. Okay, masculine energy is the angles, curved is the feminine energy. So we're talking about Kundalini energy again, or Kundalini and Kunda buffer, because people just say Kundalini as a catch-all, and that's actually only the masculine energy. And that's one of those things that they've added and changed in that religion, the way they do editing and changing everything to make everything only masculine. Kundalini, everybody hears that word, but there's two energies there. One's masculine, one's feminine. Kundalini and Kunda buffer. The Kunda buffer energy is the feminine energy. So the masculine energy is jagged. It is pointed. The masculine phallus is the male of the species. In most species, has the phallus. It's pointed. It's aggressive. It's everything about the masculine body is aggressive. The way that men think is aggressive. Their tendencies is to be more aggressive, warlike, aggressive people, and that's the jagged edge. That's the Fibonacci sequence, which is the angles, and then you have the golden mean ratio, which is the outside curve, which again is the same combination, but in the feminine, in the soft spiral that creates that spiral. That's the feminine. So when you have the landscape like a river, the further away from the landscape you go, the more the river seems to be soft and moving and weaving its way back and forth and around all objects. And then the closer you get to that river, the more you realize that it's jagged and sharp. So depending on which portion of the energy that you're looking at for that same river, you're going to see that it is soft and yet jagged. So, and then because the water is aggressive, even though people think that water is liquid and it's one solid piece, it's not. That aggressive movement will change rock that sits in the water from sharp to soft. And if anybody's ever picked up a river rock, you know that it's rounded and soft, because the water itself is constantly buffing that by the movement of going across that hard, sharp edge of the rock, and it'll turn it into a soft edge, more of a smooth edge. Why is that? Because the feminine energy will always tame the beast, right? So music tames the beast, harmony tames the beast, love tames the beast. So that plays out in nature, in spirituality, it plays out the same way. In the human nature, it plays out the same way. In the animal kingdom, it plays out the same way. That's the reason that, let me put myself back up at full screen real quick, and then we'll go back to that. That's the reason when they edited all of the spirituality, and that's why most of your religions that exist today, the big four, are all masculine, male-dominated, monotheistic, warlike cultures are what dominates. The Greek culture, the Roman culture, the Egyptian culture, the Viking culture, which three of those or two of those were masculine and feminine, but the only parts that you hear about them, like the Viking culture, is about war, aggression, rape, pillage. The masculine part of the Viking religion, that is only one aspect of it, and only those men that were aggressive, lived in that way. If you look at the true history of the Vikings, they were Bedouins, they were farmers. They weren't as aggressive as everybody thinks. They think that everybody is told that Vikings just were dumb, stupid, and they just beat people and tortured people and raped people and killed people. They did do some of that, but they weren't. They would, if you look at England, ask the English what happened to their country when the Vikings got there. The Vikings didn't come in there and enslave the English and rape and pillage. They did do that, rape and pillage and steal all their stuff. But once they got there, they didn't brutalize the English. They just moved in. They just moved in and started occupying it and started living there and started planting crops and started living there. And if the English tried to get them off the land, they would kill them. And then they would just keep living there. They were taking over, but they weren't taking over to dominate and make slaves of everybody. They wanted you out of the way, and they were going to just move in. They didn't want to breed with you. You see this play out in the movie Arthur, King Arthur, the movie where what's his name, Clive Owen played King Arthur, where the Saxons, the Saison, coming from the north, which were German Saxons, when they came across and they were attacking, one of the Vikings was going to rape a woman, and the king of the Vikings stopped him and said, "Don't mix with them. Don't blend our mix with them. You'll make half people," because they considered themselves more superior, and they didn't want to breed with them because you would end up breeding out some of the traits they figured, and you would end up breeding children that were weak because they were a warlike portion of the culture. Those were the Vikings that got all the credit from around the world, but they weren't the Vikings that were the only Viking. That's just like now. That'd be like saying now that there's some people in the world and governments like, Adolf Hitler say, which he wasn't as aggressive as people think, and they made him crazy. But if you believe that, or Genghis Khan, if you would say Genghis Khan is the epitome of all Mongol people, we need to kill all Mongols because they're bad like that. They're not. Genghis Khan was. Okay. All Germans are not Adolf Hitler. Okay. That's just the way it is. All Germans are not Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler had convinced them to do what he was doing and lied to the people and got them believing that they were doing something completely different, because he was being lied to as well by the people behind the scenes that were really in control of all the money, the bankers and all of that were propping him up. You have to look at that. So you have a 1% of the population that's doing that are evil and they're that way. But then the rest of the population is either lied to or doing what they think is right. So you can't go after an entire species or population because of one person. Same thing in everything. If you look at Julius Caesar, was Julius Caesar super evil? Well, I don't know. He was evil enough to not give up his power, but then the Senate all murdered him. They all stabbed him and killed him to get rid of him, right? So what was that about? What were they? The same thing happens, like, say, the United States broke away from the King of England because they considered him a tyrant. What did they do? They put together a government and became tyrannical themselves and did the same thing and kept Africans enslaved for another 100 years. Do you see? So almost another 100 years before they freed them. So they were landowners. They were aristocrats from over there who couldn't be kings, and they wanted to be kings, and then they did that. That's why you had Benjamin Martin. The movie The Patriot was made after Benjamin Martin and what he had went through during that Revolutionary War. And he said when they wanted to sign the Declaration of Independence, he said, "Why would I trade 1,000 or one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away?" He said, though, it's in history that he said that. And he said that, a legislature can trample a man's rights just as fast as a king. And he was correct. And he was worried about that. And a lot of the founding fathers were very worried that the government was going to become tyrannical. So they tried to do what they could to stave that off. And they did a really good job until now. So for 250 years, they did a really good job of holding that back as best they can. But, now people are trying to find loopholes. So it's individuals who are making the problem. So let me get back on point. Why is that? Because masculinity and masculinity is more warlike. And if you can keep the feminine away from the population, then it's easier to control people and they will be more masculine and more warlike. And this is why most of that information about femininity and the woman and the sacred feminine has been moved over, tried to be deleted out of the way, because if you learn about it and you start moving towards that aspect of yourself, no, doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, you're not going to turn into a woman if you start picking up traits of the feminine. That just means you can start loving other people and be nice to people instead of being a dick and being mean and evil to people. Okay. So people always think that means that you're going to lose your masculinity and the ego starts yelling at you. What, you mean we're going to turn everybody into a fruitcake? And that's somebody who's living in the flesh and that is completely unaware of what's going on. So the feminine energy has to become once again something. And all these people throughout history, all of your ascended masters were talking about that throughout history. And here you have that same thing. So on the thought process and time, you have the dweller talking about, and who is the dweller, right? What is the dweller? The dweller is the essence of the creator, the mind of the creator. So you have time exists because you need time, because there is a thought. If you have a thought, you have to have time, but you also have to have what is the explanation of time? So time moves, right? So let's go back and get back on point. So time moves in angles, moves in weird ways, right? So the thought I, to solve the mystery of time, found that time moves through strange angles. Yes, only by curves could I hope to attain the key that would give me the access to the time space. Okay, so time moves through angles because time is masculine and it's sharp. Time heals all wounds, but time also destroys everyone and everything. It's one of those mysteries, one of those what's the word that I'm looking for? When you have the different poems and sayings and riddles, and time is an answer to one of those riddles where you're figuring out that nobody can stave off time. No king, it destroys mountains and it destroys the rich, the poor, all of life. What is the one thing that cannot be overcome? Time. Why? Because time is aggressive. Time is masculine. Time is angles. Okay. So time moves in angles, but it's only through the feminine, the curves that you can access, that you can understand or understand. Okay. I found that time moves through strange angles, yet only by curves can I hope to attain the key that would give me access to space-time. So you have to have that balance of masculine and feminine to gain the wisdom to be able to figure out time, to figure out space, to figure out dimensionality. You can't do it just with the masculine. You can't do it just with the feminine, because you need the wisdom of both to balance both. And that is what he's talking about here. You need the wisdom of the masculine and the feminine. And so far on this planet for thousands of years now, for 10, 12, 14,000 years or more, the masculine has ruled here. And that's the devil ruling the earth for a time. And that time ends when we start learning and venerating that feminine energy more. Chandra, welcome. Pulling that feminine energy into our culture. That doesn't mean that all the men are going to become gay or all the women are going to go halfway towards becoming a man. It is the energy and the essence of love, caring, nurturing in our soul. So it is the heart chakra that is not self-serving. It is the heart chakra and that is in the service to others phase of the humanity, of the human genome, the human race. So we have to change the culture, which is what's happening around the world, and it has been happening for a very long time. You see people venerating the goddess. You see people venerating Mary Magdalene, who was supposed to be the one who was supposed to carry on and teach. And that was changed when a man took control of the church and annexed the feminine. In all religions, you have that. It became very male-dominated, and it goes back thousands of years. Why? That was done on purpose by men who needed to be in control and wanted to be in control, and they were self-serving kings and the like, politicians and bankers and the like, and they're self-serving people who believe that they can control people. How do you control people? You get rid of the feminine. You get rid of the female. You shut the female up. You shut up love. You shut up the curve. You shut up those things that are soft, and you keep everyone in that jagged, rigid, warlike portion of the brain. And that's exactly what they have done on this earth. That is why you're stuck here, because they have done that. So it is only through the curve. Here's the secret to the universe, the secret to time, the secret to getting out of here is right in there what he had said. Time moves in strange angles. The only way to figure out time is through the curves. So you have to balance yourself, balance your chakras, find that love within yourself, not loving just yourself, but loving others. If you love only yourself, then you're in the masculine energy. You're also in the 3D energy. You're in the first bottom three chakras. And you're self-serving. You'll never get anywhere but here. The only thing you'll learn is how to control people, manipulate people, and gain monetary things. So if that's all you want in life, go for it, because that's all you're going to get. And that's the only thing that you're going to get. You're going to get eviler, you're going to get more desperate and more controlling over people, and you're going to continue doing that until something happens and you either die of old age or somebody just like you, one of your own kids, takes over and outs you. Or somebody gets rid of you in some way because they're more evil than you are. Or you start to learn the feminine, learn the love, the caring, the nurturing side of yourself in the world. And when you go down that route, that unlocks a different set of knowledge downloads that you get from the universe. And that's how you can figure out time, space, and how to get out of this place that you're in, because you move out of the physical plane in your thinking and your beingness, and you move into the spiritual, the loving, caring, nurturing, and that moves you outside of time. So it's through the curves, there's the secret, through the curves, through the feminine, that you're going to be able to find what you need to access to the time space found he says, that only by moving upward, and yet again by moving to rightward, meaning the spiral, moving the right way, not angle, right? So, and yet again by moving to rightward could I be free from time and movement. Positive turn, not negative, not jagged, moving rightward, meaning the right hand side, spinning to the right clockwise. If the devil's on your left shoulder, your conscience is on your right shoulder. The left hand and left spin is masculine, right hand, right spin is feminine. Okay, and that's the way it is with the Merkaba, the heart chakra. The heart chakra is a triangle within a triangle, one facing up, one facing down. The one facing down spins to the right. That's love. That's the feminine. That's why you have the let me put my hands up so you can see on the screen. Okay, that's why you have the feminine is the V. The feminine is the womb, the shape of the womb. That's the triangle facing down. The masculine is what? The triangle facing up, the phallus, the penis, the penile. Okay, so you have the masculine and the feminine. So the triangle facing up is the masculine. The triangle facing down, I can't make a triangle while I'm facing down unless I turn my hands upside down, is the feminine. You put those two together on top of each other, and that's the Star of David. If you turn that into 3D and you turn them, you'll see that the heart chakra, the masculine, turns left, the feminine turns right, the opposite, and that those energies make up the Merkaba, which is the heart chakra. So your heart chakra spins in two different directions with two different energies, and if you balance those energies and you're loving, caring, and in service to others, you're now balancing that chakra the proper way, masculine and feminine, lower three chakras, upper three chakras, physical lower three chakras, upper three chakras, spiritual. And when you do that and you move into that portion of loving and caring, then you unlock the aspects of all of the chakras as you move from your physical body into your spirit body. So you start exiting this physical body because you realize that you are I am, the non-physical. And then this physical body in the next three dimensions or densities starts to wane, starts to go away. So that's the full moon center of your body, is the 0 point, the green ray chakra, center chakra of the heart. When you start moving up into the spiritual body, that starts to wax. That's the moving into the feminine. There's your full moon and the two crescents. Okay, you start moving, you start waxing, and then you start waxing the spirit body, not the physical body. The physical body then starts to deteriorate. So as you move up, the next level has a physical body that's not as dense. And then when you move into the fifth density, the dimension, the physical body starts disappearing. Your legs you don't need anymore. Your arms start moving away. The torso starts moving away. By the time you get halfway through the sixth density, sixth dimension, most of your physical body is completely gone. And then when you move up past the halfway point of the sixth dimension, you are now mostly light and become light. By the time you get to the seventh dimension, your physical body's gone. There's nothing left of it, and you are light energy now. Okay, that is the key to time, because then you're starting to move outside of time, because physicality is time. Time exists in the physical plane, but thought exists. If you have a past, present, and a future, you think a thought, then you're outside of time, but you're thinking, and therefore time still exists for you, but it doesn't exist physically anymore. Then time becomes the distance that it takes for the physical body to travel somewhere, and you realize that. Okay, so that's when you can project your mind to somewhere else instantaneously and manifest somewhere instantly without moving from where you are energetically or physically with your energy. That is called astral projecting, that we do down here on Earth, where you leave your body and you go somewhere else, and you go remote viewing is what they call it. Okay. And you actually go there and manifest there in a way that is energy to look around and you see things. And then you are still attached to this body. We already start doing it here. Some people have that ability and learn that ability, but they don't really fully understand what's happening, that they're moving outside of time. That's how they're getting somewhere instantaneously. So you can actually move from one place to another without the distance that it takes, the time that it takes to physically move there. And that's what happens when you move up. And that's what he's talking about here, is learning how to get from this physical. Let me put this up into full screen here, into the non-physical. Okay. So he's trying to figure out time and the secret to time. And because there's a thought, there means there has to be time. So when you think, I think, therefore I am, creates the time. So even the creator thinking created time. Okay. But the secret to time is physicality. So time moves in strange angles, yet only by the curves could I hope to attain the key that would give me access to the time space, not space time, to the time space, found that I only by moving upward, and yet again by moving rightward. Okay, let's continue.
That would give me access to the time space. Found I that only by moving upward, and yet again by moving to rightward, could I be free from the time of the movement. Forth I came from out of my body, moved in the movements that changed me in time. Strange were the sights I saw in my journeys, many the mysteries that opened to view. I saw man's beginning, learned from the past that nothing is new. Seek ye, O man, to learn the pathway that leads through the spaces that are formed forth in time. Forget not, O man, with all of thy seeking, that light is the goal ye shall seek to attain. Search ye for the light on thy pathway, and ever for thee the goal shall endure. Let not thine heart turn ever to darkness. Light let shine soul be, a sun on the way. Know ye that eternal brightness, ye shall ever find thy soul hid in light. Never fettered by bondage or darkness, ever it shines forth a sun of the light. I know, though hidden in darkness your soul, a spark of the true flame exists. Be ye one with the greatest of all lights. Find at the source the end of thy goal.
Okay, so again, here's the sun of the light, right? So again, here is this information of knowing the light, finding the light, looking towards the light. Okay, so how do you get out of time? You look towards the light. Okay, with all of thy seeking, that light is the goal. That's the light of God. It is the light of the Creator. And ye shall seek to attain. Search ye for the light on thy pathway. Okay, so if you are ascending, Penny, welcome. Hello. If you are ascending in the feminine energy or just the Kunda buffer energy or balancing your chakras, and you're non-self-serving but in service to others, you are then striving upward towards the light. That is rightward. That is upward clockwise to the right, because that is where your guides will give you information. That is where your higher self will give you information positive. That is where the angel is on your right shoulder. The devil is on your left shoulder. The ego is on your left shoulder. The conscience is on your right shoulder. Your consciousness is a combination of those two things, and the thinking mind. Then you, once you realize it, are that actuator. You are the son of light. You are the light of your world, because you transcend away from this physical. So the only way you can access that is by not being self-serving. If you're self-serving, you live in the flesh only. You believe the ego. You don't realize that there is an ego. You think you are the ego. You think you are the thinking mind. You think you're the physical body. Okay, that is physicality. That's the lower three chakras. You can't attain the information that you gain from the other. You can move up in that and graduate to the fourth dimension, the fourth density in the evil side, and then up into the fifth and halfway through the sixth on the evil side. You do unlock, you get downloads and unlock a great deal of knowledge. It's all self-serving, it's all evil, and it's all ways of controlling. It's all ways of manipulation. It's all ways of monetary gain. It's all that package of things. When you look at how did those people get successful? How did that guy get so rich? He got rich because he was self-serving, and he used that knowledge to manipulate the world in this matrix in a way that gave him money that he could manifest all of that physicality and money. Okay, so you have to have a choice. You can still manifest some of that richness and money by doing good, but you can't become a king or a queen or the president or a dictator of a country by doing good. You'll never get that far. Could you become, like, say, a prime minister of a country and a president of a country? Yes, but it's also short-lived. There are time limits, a couple years, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, depending on 8 years, depending on what country you're in. And then you're out and you can't come back again. Okay. Some places let you do 12 and you're out and you can't come back in again. So you can't continue that forever and become a dictator. So it's short-lived, but you do what you can when you can. So people who are in service to others will do those things and try to get power to fix things as best they can. But then people who are trying to stay in power don't want to become the president or the prime minister. They want another job where they can get in there and stay in that job forever and have the power and the control and the fame. That's why in the United States, most of the evil people don't want to be the president of the United States. They want to be in Congress, in the Senate or the House, because they can stay in politics until they die. So they can get into politics when they're in their 30s and stay there for 75 years before they keel over dead or whatever, or until they're 75 or 80 or whatever. So they're not going to give up that power. And the same thing with people behind the scenes that are in these other positions in governments. They're the ones that are non-elected or whatever. They're going to get into those positions. They're going to stay there, hidden behind the scenes, running everything so long as they can. They don't want to be public and be a public figure for a short time because they can't get much done. That's why you hear these, like in the United States, you would hear somebody say, presidents come and go. I'm here forever. Okay. And that's the way it is. So people that are self-serving, living in the flesh, are going to only look for things of the flesh. And they're going to look for things in the flesh: money, power, fame, gold, whatever. So here you're seeing that. Where is your path leading you, right? Search ye for the light on your pathway, on your path, on the way that you're walking, your pathway that you're walking. And ever for thee the goal shall endure. Let not thine heart turn ever to darkness, right? You heard Yoda say that, when Luke said, is the dark side stronger? No, it's easier, more seductive. Okay. Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Let not thy heart turn ever to darkness. Light, right? Light let shine soul be. So you want to turn towards the light, and that means you have to move to the right, not the left, and go upwards instead of downwards. Okay, so the upwards turn is the right turn, is the turn of positivity, is the is the turn, the clockwise turn, not counterclockwise. And you're going outward, upward, right? Ever away from the darkness. A sun on thy way, know ye that eternal brightness. Ye, and then it says, yeah, shall ever find, or ye shall ever find, it's supposed to, and it looks like it's a YA, ye shall ever find thy soul hid in light, never fettered by bondage or darkness. Ever it shines forth, a sun of the light. I know that though hidden in darkness your soul, a spark of the true flame exists. So you have to realize that still existing within you is that darkness and the light. So you have that ego, and that ego is going to be there to constantly try to spin you down. This place does the same thing, to try and distract you and spin you down, right? So you have to be diligent in what you're doing. Be ye one with the greatest of all lights. Find at the source, done in capitals, the end of thy goal. Source, 0 point. 0 point within yourself, 0 point in the universe. So you have to look within yourself while looking without. You have to balance yourself into the light and spin to the right and go always upwards back towards the light. Okay, so find the source at the end of the goal. Where is the source? The source is within you. It's in the center point. It's in your heart. It is love. Love is the source. Source is within you, and it's within the center of the universe, right? It's the center of all things. That is your goal. Light is life. For without the great light, nothing can ever exist. Okay? Know ye that in all formed matter, the heart of light always exists. So it's in everything. Love is in everything. Creation is in everything. The universal mind is in everything. God, whatever you want to call that. The creator of the universe is everything, is in everything. I, even though bound in darkness, inherent light always exists. Once I stood in the halls of Amente. Okay. So what are the halls of Amente? You should look into that too. I was just talking about that to somebody the other day.
Light is life, for without the great light nothing can ever exist. Know ye that in all formed matter the heart of light always exists. I, even though bound in the darkness, inherent light always exists. Once I stood in the halls of Amenti and heard the voice of the lords of Amenti, saying in tones that rang through the silence, words of power, mighty and potent, chanted they the song of the cycles, the words that opened the path to beyond. I saw the great path opened, and looked for the instant into the beyond. Saw I the movements of the cycles, vast as the thought of the source could convey. Knew I then even infinity is moving on to some unthinkable end. Saw I that the cosmos is order, and part of a movement that extends to all space. A party of an order of orders, constantly moving in a harmony of space. Saw I the wheeling of cycles like vast circles across the sky. Knew I then that all has being, is growing to meet yet another being in a far-off grouping of space and time.
Okay, so here is the expansion and the progression. Let me come back here and clear my throat, and I'll talk about that. Here's the expansion and the progression, okay? And then I'll read it again to you, and then we'll continue. When people ask me, how do things work in the progression of things? What's going on? Okay, so in the beginning, the creator created everything, right? Created this whole entire place, say the Big Bang, however you want to look at it, created the universe. The universe was void, right? So here you hear these stories, even in the Arabic. In the beginning, there was the world with the earth was void. In the beginning, the universe was void. There was nothing. And then there was something. There was a creation. The creator created everything, okay? There was no one in it. So the creator had to put life in it. Creator created life and said, this is beautiful. I wish that people could see it. I wish someone could see it. There was no one. So they created people. So the universe created souls, fractured some of itself into an individual creation, and seeded people. So the souls, because it is life, the Creator decided that things were going to evolve through this life. That way people can go through that, be something, see something, learn something, know something, become something, okay? On the journey backwards, upwards, always clockwise, upwards, back to the light, okay? So when you start out as a soul, you get created as something, rock, tree, ground, earth, air, whatever. You become something, one-dimensional. You have no idea that you're anything other than what your job is to be. You don't know anything. You run on instinct. Then you become a two-dimensional being in a two-dimensional body. And that means that you're able to move in some way. You're a tree where you can actually grow and communicate with other trees. Cat, dog, bird, snake, whatever. Fish, something that's two-dimensional that now moves and can go from one place to another. And now you start learning pack. You start learning other. You start learning similarities, those of your group and those of another. Then you start forming bonds in that way. We're all trees in a copse, or a group of trees. Grass on the ground. We're growing together. You start learning that for lack of a better word, that brotherhood ideology, that clan mentality of self, but of oneness with many. So it's an instinct that you protect yourself by having more of yourself. So that way, if a wolf comes and you're deers, then you protect the herd, you protect the weak. You start getting that instinct. Okay, then you move up from there. Again, it's up. You're moving up and spiraling, and you're moving up. Then you move up to the next dimension. First dimension or density, second dimension in density, third dimension in density. There's places of third dimension in density. When you're here, it's the first time. It is you being self-aware. So not only am I just alive, I have value. I don't want to be dead. I want to live. Therefore, I am something. I think, therefore, I am. Now your motivation is, I want to preserve my own life. That is self-serving, but quickly you also realize, wait, I care for these people. I want to preserve their life. So then their life. Then you start making that decision of caring for others or just caring for yourself. That is third dimension. So then you move here. From here, you start to spiral upward. You start to expand your consciousness from the physical to the non-physical. And in doing so, you start losing the individuality because of the physicality. Physicality is individuality. Then you start learning the non-physical body. And so that's non-physical. That's no longer I, just me, only me. You start thinking about the we. You start thinking about more than yourself. So you move up into the fourth dimension, then the fifth dimension. And as you're doing that, you're moving. Now you have to remember that as above, so below, as within, so without, as below, so above. So as the microcosm, the macrocosm, okay? So everything that is manifest in the physical manifests in the spiritual as well. All right, so that's in the different religions with your belief system and your ideology. If you had but the mustard seed amount of faith, you could literally say to a mountain, move from here to there, and it would, okay? Meaning you can change the reality. You're in control of that because you're part of the creator, not part of the creation. Okay, so that's why I tell you all this isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. So you're moving into the non-physical outside of time to where time is just a physical movement from one place to another. And you can actually transport yourself non-physically from one place to another and actually take on a physical body in that place when you move up high enough and learn how to do that. So as you're doing that, you start learning the collective. Then you learn the individuality. Then you relearn the collective, and you start thinking about the collective. And you start learning in this physical place that when you're with somebody, if you're related to them, or if you're married to them, or if you're really good friends with them and you've been with them for a long time, you start thinking alike. You start answering questions the same. You start answering each other's sentences because you start opening up and trusting each other so much that you start connecting on a non-physical way in a non-physical plane. You start connecting with one another, and you don't realize that's what you're doing when you're living down here in the physical, that you're actually starting to blend with that person in a way because of the trust and the love, to where you start moving the same, moving together. And there's that trust and that bond that has that starts when you're down here in the number 2 dimension, when you're running around as a pack of animals, protecting each other in the herd. And that herd mentality starts to translate into a non-physical when you get away from only thinking about yourself. Okay. So as you move up, you graduate from one area to another. Okay. So that's the logos coming from the creator and coming down here. I don't know if this is confusing or not. I'm going to try and explain it in a way that is not confusing. So you go from the collective to the individual. You learn your worth as an individual, but you also then learn the worth of other people in the collective, and you start getting the collective mindset. And if you carry that into the 3rd dimension and you're still not self-serving, but the collective in service to others, then what you start moving up in that density, in that dimension, that dimensionality density of the non-physical body, and you start losing the physical body. As that happens, this is where you see here, let me put it back up on the screen for you to see, and I'll read it to you. As you do that, you're moving into 5D, moving into 6D. And as you do that, say you and all the people who are not self-serving, who are in service to others, will start moving into that place of oneness with the all. So what happens is you open up, and it says here, knew I then that the words are power to open the planes that are hidden from man. That is opening that part of the spirituality that is hidden from the human condition of living in the flesh. Okay. So let's go back a little bit and I'll read up to there. Saw I the cosmos in order and part of the movement that extended to the all space. Okay. So he's seeing the spiral moving upward back to the one, to the source, a part of our order of orders. Okay. So there's an order that is smaller orders, and then there's the order of the universe. Do you see? So there's the spiral that is the one-dimensional being, the spiral that is the order of that chaos of a two-dimensional being, then the order of the chaos of three-dimensional beings, and then there's the big picture, the order of orders, the big picture, constantly moving in harmony of space. Saw I the wheel of cycles. Okay, so the wheel of cycles, the different cycles of life, living in different dimensions, first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, the wheel of cycles, and how those work as a spiral. So individual would be more physical. Physical is the jagged energy, the masculine energy, the kundalini energy. Okay, and then the non-physical is the order of orders. That's the spiral that is outside of the jagged energy. That's the arc. So when you look at the Fibonacci sequence, let me show you on the camera again. So let me come back over here. The Fibonacci sequence is the right angles. Okay, so you have all the square within the squares that tilt like this, and they spiral outward. Okay, and they're the right angles that go outward, 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 outward. That's the mathematical equation that does that, and it goes outward, outward. You can see that on and in the beginning of my show. You can see the images that show you that in nature, and then you have the overlaying arc, the spiral that goes around those on the outside of those edges, point to point, to the next point to point, to the next point to point, the next point to point, and you see those pictures of that where you have, like, say, the plant, the cactus, and it's got the little jagged edges of the cacti, but it spirals out like this. If you were to draw a line from the center point on the outside spiral, the outside point of the cactus, as it gets larger and larger and larger and larger, it becomes just a spiral that goes outward. And so you see that in the imagery that I put, you see the overlay of that spiral, and then you see how that plays out in nature with the human ear, with water. When that woman is coming out, where she dunked her head in the water and she's standing there and she flips her head up, and the water is going in a perfect arc that is exactly the Fibonacci sequence that is going in a perfect arc. And then you see the spiral of the plant life, and you see the spiral of the fetus growing inside of a human. Then you see the spiral of a cloud formation in the sky, and then you see the spiral of a solar system, the spiral of the universe, and it is all the same spiral. So from the distance, getting back to what I was talking about before with the river, from the distance, it looks like a perfect spiral. Everything is a perfect spiral. The closer you get, the closer you get, the closer you get. And when you start to see the masculine and you start to see the jagged edges, the only way that doesn't work is in the fractals when you have it on the computer, because the fractals are just showing people, and this is why they're tripping on the fractals, because they realize that's another entire reality that is not the physical reality. So they're figuring out finally what I knew when I was 24 years old, but I didn't want to tell them because I knew they would turn it into a weapon, which is what they're going to do anyways. But at least it was staved off long enough for people to figure out. Okay, so that's the feminine energy. When you look at fractals, no matter how many times you zoom in, it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over for infinity, because that's the feminine energy. That's the not the Fibonacci sequence, because that's the right angles. And people say it's the Fibonacci spiral. Fibonacci didn't calculate that spiral. It's the golden mean ratio. It wasn't calculated by Fibonacci. Leo didn't calculate that one, or he did, but it's not the numbers that is there. Okay, it's not the numbers that are the 0, 0, 1, 1, 3, 3, 5, 7, 9. That's the angles. Okay, the golden mean ratio is what? Is 0.168. Okay, so that's a different calculation. If you look at that calculation, that's the arc on the outside. So it's not the Fibonacci sequence. They call it the Fibonacci spiral. I'll take it. Fibonacci spiral, but it's the outside edge. The outside edge is the soft edge, and if you look, it always goes to the right. Okay, feminine energy. So that's the big picture. So you have the masculine and the feminine, and what happens? One is spiraling inward forever, and one is spiraling outward forever. What happens? How is that changed? The light, the Higgs boson, the 9 energy, the God particle, the God energy collapses the two onto themselves, reverses them so that they become a toroidal field. They become one, and they go back to 0 point. Where is the controlling factor? The 0 point. That is why God said, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the beginning, the 0 point, and the end. I am all and nothing. I am everything and nothing. Okay, so that is the 9 energy. That is the energy that is the controlling energy that spins 6 back on itself and spins 3 back on itself, so that they go back to the 0 point. So everything goes out and back. That's infinity. Everything goes out and back, out and back, out and back, out and back, and it comes back to the 0 point every single time. That is the 0 point. That is the 0 point of the Taurus. That is the 0 point of the 6, 3, the 3, 6, and 9. The 9 is 0 and 9. The 0 point and 9. 9 and 0. The Higgs boson. I am the Alpha and the Omega. So that is the light. The light is within you. The light is within the center of you, the heart chakra, within the center of the earth, the 0 point, within the center of the solar system, the sun, the 0 point of all that revolves around it, the light, the 0 point of the Milky Way galaxy, the center of the Milky Way galaxy, and the Milky Way galaxy is part encircling the universe, and there's a 0 point to the universe. So the progression is that which is the physical planet becomes that which is the star. That's the logos, the planet, and everybody's revolving in the planet, the 0 point. Then the next 0 point is the star, solar system. Then the next 0 point is the Milky Way galaxy, the 0 point of the galaxy, of the galaxy. And then the next 0 point is the center of the universe. Okay. Cell within cell within cell, logos within logos within logos within logos. You are a logos of the planet. The planet is a logos of the sun. The sun is a logos of the galaxy. The galaxy is a logos of the universe. The universe is the logos of the multiverse. Okay, so your progression upwards into energy goes away from physicality. Okay, so you're going upwards to the light. Third dimension is this place. So when you get out of this place, you move to fourth dimension, What is fourth and fifth dimension? What is the 0 point of that? The 0 point of that is the Milky Way galaxy. So you then become one and start becoming one with all of the minds, with all of the energy that makes up the Milky Way galaxy. And then eventually you take on the persona of the Milky Way galaxy, that 0 point. You are then revolving, because we're revolving around that 0 point. So we become from the person to the planet, to the solar system, to the galaxy. So eventually we'll become one with like the light of the sun, and that what that represents, third dimension, that's the fourth dimension. Then when you move into the fifth dimension, you start associating not just your individuality, but now all the humans that were on this planet, one with the planet, we become one with the solar system, we become one. And now we start moving into the universe. And now we're our solar system. Even in physicality, we would move from government, city, state, county, state, nation, planet. Then you would move out to solar system. So we will move out to solar system, and this is our solar system, even in 3D. Then when we would expand out, what would we do? We would start collecting other solar systems. And eventually, if we were the governing body of the universe, we would eventually have portions of the universe, just like territories of a country. And then eventually you would take over, say, or become collective with the entire whatever structure of the Milky Way galaxy, of the galaxy. And then that whole galaxy would have a personality on a high enough plane, looking at other galaxies. And the next thing you know, you would start make trading relationships with them, and then you would move up to the universal mindset. So in a physical way, I just kind of explained to you the progression into the non-physical in your motion back towards the creator. You lose the physicality in the physical body, and the things that you're looking for, money, power, fame, gold, land, all of that goes away. And you start moving into knowledge, love, understanding, and wisdom, and all of these other traits in the non-physical. And then you start collectively moving into one unit. So all of the human souls, or all the souls, because right now they're human souls because we're on Earth, but eventually you're going to be interacting with other souls, and you're not going to be worrying about physical and what race they are, because that goes away when you leave the physical plane. So when you go into your spirit plane, you're then going to start associating yourself, and the progression is you then start becoming a collective in that area, and then eventually that collective gets with a larger collective, and eventually a larger collective, and then eventually back to the source itself. So you're ever spiraling clockwise, right-wise, upward towards the light. Okay, so eventually you will lose your individuality, and your individuality will become the collective consciousness. And that collective consciousness will have a personality, a race personality, or a collective. Say it's all of the human race if we all evolve together. Then the human race will have one mind, one hive mind. At first we'll have separate, but we can hear each other. We can all hear each other. And then as you move up, you start losing your individuality, and you start becoming that one collective. Then that collective meets a higher collective, and eventually you start merging with that collective, and that collective becomes a hive collective that everybody can all hear for themselves. And then eventually they lose that individuality and become that collective, and that moves up until eventually there's a bunch of collectives that are moving and merging back with source. And then you lose your consciousness, you lose your individuality, and you become source. And then if you want, the source will then, you'll then fracture off into a new consciousness to start all over and do all the brand new stuff that you didn't already do, because you already know that that's programmed in. We've done all of these things. We need more different ways of doing that. And that will be created by the individual, and will come back up. I don't know if that's too much for you guys to understand. I don't know if that's too crazy for you to understand, but that's what he's talking about. The order of orders constantly moving in harmony of space. Saw I the wheeling of cycles like vast circles across the sky. Knew I then that all that has been is growing to meet yet another being in a far off grouping of space and time. Do you see? So he's talking about that spiral where we're becoming one together, and then we're going to go and meet another being and become one together and go into a higher plane. And each time spiraling upwards into a bigger collective, into an individual collective, into a bigger collective, into an individual. Knew I then that the words are power to open the planes that are hidden from man. I, that even in worlds lie hidden the key that will open above and below. Hark ye now, man. Hark ye now, man. This word I leave with thee. Use it, and ye shall find power in its sound. Say ye the word. Zin Uru. Okay? So let's continue. Let me go over here and put it up back into full screen, and we'll continue here, okay?
Knew I then that in words are power, to open the planes that are hidden from man. I, that even in words lies hidden the key that will open above and below. Hark ye now, man, this word I leave with thee. Use it, and ye shall find power in its sound. Say ye the word, Zin Uru, and power ye shall find. Yet must ye understand that man is of light, and light is of man. List ye, O man, and hear a mystery, stranger than all that lies neath the sun. Know ye, O man, that all space is filled by worlds within worlds, aye, one within the other, yet separate by law.
Okay, so know ye, O man, that all space is filled by worlds within worlds. I, one within the other, and yet separate by law. Okay. So literally, so worlds within worlds. So that these exactly sphere within sphere, energy within energy, dimension within dimension, first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, worlds within worlds, separated by law. Okay, separated by vibration, separated by sound, separated by everything. You can't see. You can see the first and second dimension, because in the third dimension, the first and second dimension exists in the third dimension. Okay, so when you move into the fourth dimension, the first, second, and third dimension exist in the fourth dimension. When you move into the fifth dimension, you can then see the first, second, third, and fourth dimension when you're in the fifth dimension. But when you're in the first dimension, you can't see the second dimension. When you're in the second dimension, you can't see the third dimension. Okay, but it kind of crosses over because you're learning the awareness of I am. So in the third dimension, you can't physically see the fourth dimension, because the fourth dimension exists within, starting to exist without and within at the same time, because it's non-physical. It's starting to become spiritual. So the only way that you can see the fourth dimension is you have to look within yourself. And then it starts to go further away from that by the time. That's why we can't see the fifth dimension or anyone that's in it, because we're in the third dimension, and you're looking for them in the third dimension with third dimension eyes. So you cannot see the non-physical with your physical eyes. So if you talk to a person who is a medium, and if they can see disembodied spirits, they will not see it with their physical eyes. They will see it with their third eye, which is an internal eye, which sees in the spiritual, which is non-physical. So when a person talks to somebody from another plane, or even the one that comes through into this plane, they will in some way be able to communicate with those people, feel them, hear them, smell them, or see them, or the like, to communicate with them. And you will as well when you get those abilities. Okay. So literally you start to be able to do that, but it's non-physical. So you no longer see them with your physical eyes. You see them with the non-physical eyes. And the people who can develop the ability to see at the same time in the physical with their physical eyes, and in the non-physical by opening their third eye and then being able to move their third eye and look around, they'll be able to see where they want to see, and they can walk into a room and then go and sense, even though they're looking south, they can sense when they walk in the door and they're facing south that over to the west, there's an energy over there that happens to be a disembodied spirit who doesn't know that they're dead, or does and is lost or whatever, and is there from the 1800s or the 1600s. And they'll be able to communicate with that in some way, or at least just sense it, depending on their development. That is being able to see through a dimension to a different dimension, because you're seeing outside of time and space where that person is existing that is no longer attached to a physical body. And you're able to see that. Okay. So as you move up, you're able to look at the lower planes from where you are. But when you're down in the lower planes, you can't look up at the upper planes right away. You have to develop the ability and move yourself into those planes even while in the physical. So while you're in the physical third dimension, if you're in service to others or in service to self, you can move up to the fourth dimension or density in both of those respects. You either become more evil or you don't. You become more righteous. But you will unlock packages that unlock within you the bounds of third dimension, and you start moving out of that dimensionality into the density, which is the non-physical, which is the spiritual. Then you have the ability to see with those eyes, with that eye, the third eye, not the two eyes that are physical. And you actually learn knowledge, and you have a different wisdom and a different sight on both, whether you're evil or whether you're not. And that continues until halfway through the sixth dimension, or the sixth density, halfway through. Then evil cannot no longer grow. They're stuck there. That's the purgatory. They cannot go up from there. They are not designed to. The entire universe does not allow them to, because the law that was created by the creator says that is as far as evil needs to go. Evil cannot take over, is not equal to God. That's only halfway back to God, and they're done. They can stay there and try all they want and do whatever it is that they want in that evil place, but they will never, ever move up from there until they then change their path and become in service to others. Then they will be able to move up. So once in my search for deep buried wisdom, I opened the door that bars them from man. Called I from the other plane of being, one who was fairer than the daughters of man. Okay, so now we're going to get into actually communicating with someone, right, from a different plane of existence. And this is what he's talking about. Okay. Pardon me, I have phlegm problems here. Let's continue over here.
Once in my search for deep buried wisdom, I opened the door that bars them from man. Called I from the other planes of being, one who was fairer than the daughters of men. I called her from out of the spaces, to shine as a light in the world of men. Used I the drum of the serpent, wore I the robe of the purple and gold, placed on my head the crown of silver, around me the circle of cinnabar shone. Raised I my arms and cried the invocation that opens the path to the plains beyond.
Okay, so that's description in the physical of something that's non-physical. Used I the drum of the serpent. That means the wisdom. The serpent was not evil. That was changed when the people were trying to keep everybody into the masculine energy. So all of the wisdom of the serpent became evil. The serpent was don't listen to him, he's the devil. The serpent in the garden. Every religion had a serpent added to it. And that was the fight, the dragon of the North Sea, Tiamat, the dragon, the serpent, Quetzalcoatl, the serpent, Viracocha. Everything became a serpent, and that serpent was to be feared because the serpent is evil. So when the people got the knowledge here on the earth of how to control the earth, the self-serving ones, they had to take all the wisdom and turn everything upside down. Good is bad, bad is good. So all wisdom is bad. It's all the devil. Stay away from it. That's the devil, and it'll possess you, and you'll die, and you'll go to this place called hell. Don't listen to them at all. False prophets. Look over here. Look over here. Come and sit in our chairs. We'll tell you how to get out of here. It's not them. Don't listen to them. Don't expand your consciousness. Sit down here and wait. And then they changed the religions and said, look, the religions tell you, wait here. I'll come back in a Volkswagen bus, and I'll come pick you up with some big, tall guy with a big long beard and a big giant book. And if your name's in the book, you get to come with me, but wait here. I'll come back with a car. We'll come get you. And that's what they decided to tell you. Okay. So this is a physical representation. The only way that you can teach children is to teach them in a physical way. And you talk in parables so that you can then expand their consciousness with the parable. And the next time you tell a different parable, then they start to understand or understand, more importantly, that the stories you're telling are multiple and they all have the same meaning. That's what a parable is. So literally you see that he's using a parable and physical and saying, used I the drum of the serpent, wore I the robe of purple and gold. What does purple and gold represent? What is the purple chakra and what is the gold chakra? You don't even know what the gold chakra is because you haven't gotten that far in spirituality in the modern day. Purple is the crown chakra. Gold is above that chakra. Okay, so used I the robe of the purple and the gold, the wisdom of the purple chakra, and the gold, which is not in the physical plane in the 3D, because there is no gold on that. There's the yellow, and people try to say that gold is yellow, but it's not. Yellow is yellow. Gold is a different color. There is no gold chakra in the physicality. So you wouldn't be able to attain this unless you were a very spiritual person and already moving past the physical plane into the spiritual above that crown chakra. Okay, so use I the drum of the serpent, the wisdom, wore I the robe, the mantle, the knowledge of purple and gold, moving upward past the third, placed on my head the crown of silver. Now we're talking about silver. Silver and gold go together. So now we're talking even higher. Placed on my head the crown of silver. Around me the circle of cinnabar shone. So now there's a cat. He's got a cast a circle, a bubble, which is of a certain light, right? So that bubble of a certain light is non-physical. It's in the spiritual realm. So he's moving up in his vibration and invoking this energy, excuse me, this energy that he's doing. It's not necromancy. It's not getting a demon. That's all physical plane. That's all physicality. That's third dimensional concepts that the evil people will try to do and possess somebody and do that. That's not what is happening here. This is the non-physical, spiritual, moving up higher away from the third dimension into the fifth dimension, fifth dimensionality and above. Around me the circle of cinnabar shone. Raised I my arms and cried the invocation that opens the path to the planes beyond. This is non-physical, spiritual awakening. That is the becoming, that like Christ is the light of the world, the illumination and the knowledge of the spiral that keeps going. Okay. Cried to the lords of the signs in their houses. So again, now we're looking at the lords of the signs in their houses, the signs that rule, the circles that rule, the chakras that rule the characteristics in the third dimension. He's now unlocking the fifth, sixth, seventh dimension. Okay, density now outside of the physicality, and he's seeing the spiraling upward and to that light that is now going closer to the source, closer back to the creator of the universe. So the lords of the signs in their houses, lords of the two horizons, watchers of the terrible gates. So now if you're down here and you know about the invocations that happen on the earth, when people are casting a circle to work within of protection so that evil can't disrupt. And this is where people that are living in the physical plane, they tend to go, oh, well, if you're casting a spell, you must be evil. If there's an incantation, you're evil because the church told me so. Yet, I tell everybody, when was the last time you went to a mass at any church? Because the person conducting the mass is conducting and casting the exact spell that they're telling you that is evil when someone else does it of a different religion. Okay. So if you're a Christian, you go and what happens? They start burning incense and candles, and there's an altar, and the altar is always facing a certain direction. And they stand on the altar and they have a book of spells, and they open the book to a certain place and they start reading an incantation, and they put their hands up and they're saying certain things, casting a spell, and then they're taking the wine or the water and they're waving their hand and they're blessing that. Oh, it's different because God's blessing it. So they're not casting a spell. God is casting a spell. That's what they tell you. So we're not doing a ritual. We're not casting a spell. We're not evil, but they're doing exactly what it is. What is it that is evil that I shouldn't be doing? Well, you shouldn't be standing around with a book that has spells in it, and you most definitely shouldn't be burning incense and candles and casting a spell to work in. You shouldn't be doing any of that. And then you shouldn't be talking to deities and demons that don't exist to give you protection, or maybe bless the wine that you have and then hold up the biscuit and bless the biscuit and then set that down and make it holy, and then have holy communion to prove your dedication to God. That's a spell they're casting. They're casting the exact spell they're telling you is evil if you do it on your own. And that it's the devil that you're talking to, but not us. We talked only to God, you see. So it's hypocritical. They'll tell you not to do exactly what they're doing. But isn't that what you're doing with it? It's different. It's different. When you're doing it, you're talking to the devil. You just don't know it. Because the greatest devil the trick ever pulled was to get you to think that it didn't exist. But you know the devil exists, and so do I. If that's the case, then didn't the trick not work? Because we know that it existed. Where do the stories come from then if the devil got us convinced that he didn't exist? So what are you saying? Oh, well, you can't do it right. Because only if you talk to the person I'm talking to. Weirdly, because that other religion over there says the same thing. They're not real. Don't listen to them. Demons, devils. Every religion will tell you the other one is talking to demons and devils. Everybody who's in the physical will tell you if you're praying, you're only communicating with the deep state, the CIA, the whatever, the cabal, and that's it, because they have really powerful psychics that are so powerful they can interrupt you and they can grab your signal that you're trying to talk to God, and they can talk to you and pretend they're God. And they can pretend that they're entities from someplace else and they're really demons or the devil. Wait, no, you just said it was the deep state. Well, okay, if you don't believe it's the deep state, then they're devils and demons. It's the devil. And the devil is tricking you and telling you these things. And where did you get that information from? The church, who was telling you that if you do it on your own, it's the devil. Don't play with that Ouija board. You're going to get devils only. Then they're going to tell you they're good people, and they're going to tell you good things until they get a hold of you. Isn't your God doing the same thing? Never mind that. No, my God, faith, good intentions. My God never leads me astray. I'm always talking to God. Really? Because in God's name, every war that's ever been fought on this earth was fought in God's name. Because God told someone, and they said that. They said God wills it, right? I'm not an atheist. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, that bullshit's a control mechanism to keep you from thinking for yourself and trying to figure out what's going on, because they're not teaching you how to get out of here. They're teaching you to wait here and listen to them and pay them a tithing. They're not teaching you how to get out. They're like, no, the only way to heaven is through Jesus. He said the way to heaven is through me. Okay, so what is Jesus telling me that I need to do? Wait here. I'll tell you what Jesus said. And they never tell you what Jesus said. They teach you Romans instead of that. Romans were the people who killed Jesus. So why are we learning the book of Romans? Why are we not? We're learning the book of Jesus. How come we're not learning that? Well, you are learning that. No, you're not. You're learning segments of it, little words and phrases. And then they tell you Romans mostly. Okay? They're telling you everything except for what Jesus said. And all the books that were written that said, Jesus said, Jesus said, Jesus said, Jesus said, they didn't tell the storyline that were telling the Proverbs that Jesus said were taken out of the fucking Bible. Book of James, right? Book of many other people, Jude, all of them are Jesus said this, Jesus said this, Jesus said this. So if they're using Proverbs of Jesus, why don't they have those in the book of Proverbs? And Jesus said this and that and this and that and this and that, because then you could cross-reference that to the storyline that Matthew told, the storyline Mark told, the storyline Luke told, the storyline John told, because they wrote their book in a story fashion that goes from one place to another and tells the story of what happened in between. Those books were left in, but the ones who told you what Jesus said while everybody was talking to him, those books were taken out. So when people were asking Jesus, hey, dude, what is this? And he told them the answers to their questions, those books were taken out. But the ones that told the story that they wanted you to hear are the only ones left in, 4 of them. There were 12 apostles. Where's everybody else's books? And then there was like 9 women. And no, there wasn't any women. Wait, we know for sure there was Mary and the girl that got killed that was going to marry Thomas. So that's 3 already. There was other women that were around, and they're written in, and they come and go, and they're there. Lazarus had 2 sisters. They were around Jesus quite a bit. And then they said that Peter had a wife. Where was she? How come she didn't? Eden. How come she wasn't around? And who was that other woman that came from Africa? There's another woman. Where's all those people? Didn't they have anything to say? Women weren't taught how to read and write back then. Oh, wait a minute. So the chosen race treated their women like shit and made them wear a burqa? Isn't that called Sharia law? Can't learn how to read and write? No, because it sounded like In Jesus's camp, they were taught how to read and write, but in the regular religion, they weren't taught how to read and write because they weren't. And so Jesus was an outlaw teaching women how to read and write and how to read the scriptures and how to teach the scriptures. His ass needed to fucking go. So they crucified him. Okay? Think about that. So the chosen race, the right religion, the one that is right, has always treated women like prisoners, like property. Sound familiar? You didn't have any rights. Those rights came later on, not at that time. So did Jesus change things by being here and changing the way people thought? And that's why people had rights? Don't know. Don't know the answer to that. But if you look back in history, when the men took control of the religions, women were pushed out so they could control things. If you look at the politics as to why Jesus was crucified, had nothing to do with anything other than he was becoming more popular. People were listening to him and they were losing their power over the people. His ass needed to go. Look that up. They did the same thing to everybody who was a prophet. That one needs to go because we can't control the people because they're preaching that you don't have to listen to those people. Mahatma Gandhi was shot through the heart for doing the same thing. Okay? When you are telling people don't listen to all of that craziness and start walking your own path to enlightenment and it starts working, the people, you become a danger to the people who are telling people sit down, shut up, and do what I tell you to do. So when you become popular enough, you have to be canceled by those people because they need to silence you because you're telling people some shit they don't want them to know about. Okay? So looking up past this physical plane has been made illegal. So therefore, here's another reason why the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are being told to you are fake and not real. Because if it is real, it's telling you how to balance your chakras. It's telling you how to better yourself as an individual. It's telling you how to find your way back to God. And it's actually showing you what to do to find your way back to God. Why is that so bad? Why is that so bad? Because it's the wrong path to God. That's why. Weirdly, it's the same path that every religion everywhere in history was telling until you edited it out. So what's the one thing that is the most important thing that has been edited out of every religion? The way off this rock, the way to find yourself back to God. And all of them told you the same story. Okay? And I wrote about that in my book. So we got to pay the bills. It's the perfect time for a commercial.
What is the reality about reality? Returning to the old ways. It is a comprehensive book about what is really going on here on this planet. It talks about the true spirituality that the controllers who think they own this planet have been keeping from you for thousands of years. It explains to you the knowledge that you gain from the universe itself when you live the way the prophets of the world throughout time told us how to live. Eat right, meditate, take care of yourself, treat others right. All the things they originally told us to do, but the controllers have removed from right in front of our eyes. The way to ascend to heaven. The reality about reality. Returning to the old ways. On sale worldwide, online now.
Right? Penny says, yet when I surround myself with the white and gold light using the purple flame, sound familiar? Right? Right, Penny? Yeah. So let's go back over here. Let me put this back in. Sound familiar to you? Right? Okay, so around me, the circle of cinnabar shone. Raised I my arms and cried the invocation that opens the path to the planes beyond. Cried to the lords of the signs, the cycles, the chakras, in their houses, in their places, right? Where's your house? Where is it? It's the place that you rule. So in your, and beyond your third eye, in your spiritual body, there are places just like you have in the physicality and the physical plane. You have chakras that are in a higher plane of existence. Lords of the two horizons, watchers of the terrible gates. Okay, so again, the gates are there so that you have to know and balance yourself in a way that proves that you are, in fact, in service to others. You can't fake it. If you try to fake it, the gate doesn't open because the watcher of the gate, the lord of the sign, the lord of the cycle, the lord of the gate, looks at you and says, you're not in service to others. You don't get to go here. And you can't fake that. You can't, the only person that you can fake is a third dimensional, second dimensional, first dimensional being with being evil. Past the third dimension, you can't just fake it and pretend that you're good and hide in plain sight and actually be evil. So if you're trying to unlock the planes above a fifth dimension, above fourth and fifth dimension, you cannot go there if you are evil. The lords of the planes, the lords of the two horizons. So now we're talking about, what are the two horizons? We're talking about the non-physical. So we're already in 5D, so we're thinking 6 and 7D, because you don't get to know what's going on past that, because when you get past the sixth dimension halfway, you're moving into your light body, and this is the end of this cycle, the end of this logos, which is the 0 through 6, and then you have 6 through, or 7 through 13 to get back to the 1. So you have your higher self anchored halfway through the sixth dimension, and when you merge with your higher self halfway through the sixth dimension, then you have to go to the edge of tomorrow, the edge of the seventh dimension, or the edge of the sixth going into the seventh dimension. So then when you start that journey, that's the next logos, that's the next tier. And we don't get to know what's going on in the seventh and the eighth. We can channel and talk to those people, but they won't give us any information about what's going on up there, because that is completely alien to us down here. Okay. So the lords of the signs in their houses, lords of the two horizons, watchers of the terrible gates, stand ye one at the right and one at the left. Okay. As the star rises to his throne and ruler over his sign. Okay. So now you're looking at moving into a different place. And then look, I, through Dark Prince of Uluru, of what? Arulu, right? Close to Uluru. It's not the same though. It is not the same. It's different. But I just wanted to show you that it's close in the opposite of the negative would be the light. Okay. But I, though Dark Prince Arulu, opened the gates of the dim, hidden land and released her whom ye keep imprisoned. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, dark lords of the shining ones, right? So now you're looking at fighting the ego in a different way in the non-physical, and graduating and defeating evil so that you can then move into the light. Okay. It's the same as here. So you're still having the ego. You're still having to balance yourself. You're still having to be diligent to move upward into the light. Okay. So let's continue here.
Cried to the lords of the signs in their houses, lords of the two horizons, watchers of the troubled gates, stand ye, one at the right and one at the left, as the star rises to his throne and rules over his sign. I, thou dark prince of Arulu, open the gates of the dim, hidden land, and release her whom ye keep imprisoned. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, dark lords and shining ones, and by their secret names, names which I know and can pronounce. Hear ye, and obey my will. Lit I then with flame my circle and...
Okay, so does this sound familiar to you? If you are a theologian, it does, because as a theologian, this would sound familiar to you, because the Egyptian Book of the Dead talks about the keepers of the gate, and you knowing their secret name and knowing the knowledge that you need to have them open the gate. That's balancing a chakra. I'll be doing that eventually. I'll be talking about the Egyptian Book of the Dead and translating that to you as well. So it's about balancing that chakra, that personality trait within yourself. If you're balancing that within yourself to the positive in service to others, in the Egyptian pantheon, if you have the spell that they would write for you, that would tell you the things that you need to know to get into heaven, your immortal soul would go to heaven, to the halls of Amente, or to Elysium, or whatever you call that place, that Eden, that place of heaven. So you would have to know those things. The same thing is in the Bible. I told you that, and it talked about it. It's the same thing that's in the beginning of the Emerald Tablets. The first 7 tablets of the Emerald Tablets are how you balance those personality traits, those chakras, to get into heaven. So the Egyptian Book of the Dead has the same thing, and you're on a boat and you have to pay the tithing to the boatman, and then you have to go 10% to the boatman, and now your soul is being traveling up the river of the Nile, they claimed, or down the river of the Nile, up the river of the Nile, and you're going to the gates, and you have to know the name of the gods, the rulers, the lords of that gate. You have to know their secret name, and you can speak it, and then you have to have the knowledge that they need for them to open the gate. And if you're evil, you don't get to have them, won't open that gate. If you're good, then they'll open that gate and you'll travel to the next gate. And if you know all the secrets all the way, eventually it opens up the gate and you go into heaven. So here you have the Emerald Tablet, which is supposed to be older than the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The Egyptians say that. It's older than what this came from 77,000 years ago, somewhere farther back, 25,000 years to 77,000 years before us. So they're talking pre-dynastic era for the Egyptian culture. Okay. So here you have that. And so knowing the words, right? Knowing the names of that, right? So ye obey me, will lit I then the flame of the circle, and called her in the spaces in the plain. So he knows the Lord's names and he could speak them, he says, right? So 7 times I have passed through the fire. Food have I not eaten, water have I not drank. Okay. So literally, hear ye, dark lords and shining ones. Now I'm going back and reading, right? And by their secret names which I know and can pronounce, hear ye and obey my will. Lit I then the flame of the circle and called her by name. Okay, so literally knowing the gatekeeper's names, how to balance the chakra, what needs to be said to that person to be able to then open up the gate and move past that to another place, and being able to then talk to someone that is being referred to as her.
Called her in the space planes beyond. Drought of light, return from Arulu. 7 times and 7 times have I passed through the fire. Food have I not eaten, water have I not drunk. I call thee from Arulu.
Right, so food I have not eaten, water I have not drunk, not eating from the tree of life or drinking from the tree of life. So he's talking about not being in the physical plane, not being negative, not being evil, not being self-serving, being in service to others. Food I have not eaten, water I have not drunk. Okay, so not eating of the tree of life, not drinking of the tree of life, the water of the tree of life, not in that sense that the Christians were talking about, but in the sense of the Christ within, balancing yourself, not living in the flesh, and not debauching yourself and grounding yourself with fleshly, worldly pleasures. And that is the way that you get out of this place. That doesn't mean you have to starve yourself and not eat food and not drink water. Some people think that that's what it is, and they go on a fasting for 30 days or so, and they go up on a mountaintop because they believe they're supposed to not eat or drink anything, and that just causes problems, and you could end up dying or passing out and hitting your head. You don't need to do that, but it's not a bad thing to purge your body of crap by fasting at different times to make sure that you clean your body and cleanse your body so you don't have all toxins in there that are slowing you down and lowering your vibration. So you just have to figure those things out. And that doesn't mean starve yourself to death and almost die before you find the answers. Okay.
From the realms of Akershagal, I summoned thee, Lady of Light. Then before me rose the dark figures, the figures of the Lord.
I was wondering why we hadn't found all those out yet.
Of Arulu. Parted they before me, and forth came the Lady of Light. Free was she now from the lords of the night, free to live in the light of the earth's sun, free to live as a child of the light. Hear ye and listen, O my children. Magic is knowledge, and only is law. Be not afraid of the power within thee, for it follows law as the stars in the sky.
Okay. So literally unlocking a knowledge within yourself. Magic is not evil. It's only used by people that are evil, or used in darkness with dark energy that would be used in a dark way that is evil, right? So magic in and of itself is the wisdom. Okay. Magic is knowledge, and only is law. Okay, so the law and the understanding of the law seems like magic, because me just channeling seems like magic to some people, and they see that as evil. Okay, just trying to figure out how to get off this planet in a spiritual way seems like evil to people that are living completely locked into this place, because it seems like magic. So magic, if they're being taught anything that is non-physical, is a demon or devil, which is weird, because that's religions telling people that something you can't see, taste, touch, or smell that is outside of this plane of existence, because you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it, is actually there, but it's all bad. Everything that is non-physical is bad. Do you see what they're saying to you? If you're communicating by yourself to something that is non-physical, it's always the devil or someone evil. But if we're doing it, we're talking to God. Do you see what they're telling you? So they're saying that only the priests can talk to God. This is something that has been going on for thousands of years. They did that in Egypt too. Anyone who's in control and trying to control the masses will tell you that only they can speak to God, and that they are God's messenger on earth, or they are God on earth. Sound familiar? This goes all the way back to every single person who has ever controlled anyone with any religion ever. Ever. Except for the people who were teaching you a spiritual way of ascending to heaven. And those people are 100% what every religion was based on this earth. And those people told you one thing, and then when they died, the religion changed that message and told you something different. Okay? Why is it that Jesus says the way to heaven is through me, but he says the way to heaven, they never tell you this part. You can look it up. He says the way to heaven is within you. Within you. But they never tell you that in church. Have you ever heard that in church? In church, they tell you, he says the way to heaven is through me. They never tell you that part. Even in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, in those 4 books, he never tell you that part where he's telling his disciples that the way to heaven is to look within yourself. Why do they never tell you that part of the Bible? It's still in there. They couldn't take that part of the Bible out without taking out the part of the Bible they needed to leave in to tell you to wait here. But he says that in there. Jesus says that. Muhammad says that. Moses says that. Marduk says that. Thor says that. Shiva says that. Ganesh says that. The way out of here in every religion is taught by all the people in the religion by looking within yourself. Lao Tzu in the Taoism. The Buddha, the prince, when he was undercover pretending to be somebody else. The Buddha. They all teach you that the way to ascend to heaven is to look within yourself. Why then are they not teaching that in the religion? Because those people preached that to you. And every single person who is enlightened in all of those religions are telling you to sit down and look within yourself. Why is that so evil and foreign when someone tells you how to do it? That's crazy. Don't listen to that. They're telling you to pray a different way than we pray to God. We pray to God by putting our hands together like this and kneeling down. Oh yeah, and close your eyes. And then speak to God and ask for things like, God, please give me the lottery. God, have my car's breaking down. I need the money. But if they then open their hands this way, oh wait, if you're a Roman Catholic, you do that. You pray to God with your hands open. Okay, so that's not evil, but it is according to the other Christians, because you have to have your hands together like this. But then when you do this and you say namaste, they go, oh, he's evil because he said a different word. Because he said a word in a different language, right? Someone says assalamu alaikum, the other one says alaikum salam. That's evil. That's an evil religion. Those words translate to peace be upon you and also on you. Sound familiar? Christians say the priest will come out and say, especially in Roman Catholic, peace be with you. And the response is also with you. But if he said that in Arabic, you would think he was evil. Assalamu alaikum. Alaikum salam. Okay? Because you don't know that language. You don't know that they're saying the same exact words. Peace be upon you. Peace be with you. Same words, namaste, peace be with you. Okay. So that religion is wrong. My religion is right because I don't say assalamu alaikum or alaikum salam. I say peace be with you and also with you. That's the same words. Namaste, peace be with you. Okay. Doing the same thing, but that one's wrong and mine's right. Why is yours right? Because I have a guy who stands up in the front and he casts a spell and waves his hand at stuff and says an incantation, and that makes it okay. But if you do that on your own, you're obviously talking to the devil because you can't communicate with God, because not anyone can communicate with God. You have to be holy like that guy. How do you know that? Because he told me that. Only I can talk to God because God only talks to holy people. Really? Because God never told me that I should go over and kill those people, but God's telling you to tell me to go and kill those people. I am the chosen one by God, and you are the chosen one. Go kill those people. Wait here, put this on you. When you blow yourself up, you get to go to heaven and you get to have a whole bunch of virgins to have sex with. So wait, I'm not going to have a physical body anymore, but I'm going to get to have physical sex with people in a physical place? That kind of sounds like a place that's called hell, where you have a physical body and you're stuck in a purgatory in a place that is away from God. Never mind that. Shut up. You're going to go to hell if you don't listen to me. God wills it. Every single time they've corrupted the religions to use that to control people, and then they tell people that only they can speak to God. Okay? That is exactly what the Sanhedrin was doing at the time that Jesus was kicking over tables. And what did they do? Murdered him for it. Okay? So it appears to be magic to your eyes and ears if you are convinced and living in the flesh, because it is non-physical. And when things are non-physical, let me go back over here and read this to you. When things are non-physical, they seem to be magic to you. Okay, if you are living in the flesh and you are living in 3D and you are buying into everything that they tell you, then you have already been trained and programmed physically to think that anything that they're doing is not magic. And anything, if you do exactly what they're doing, but you're not doing it the way they're doing it to talk to their God, or even if you are doing it the way they're doing it to talk to their God, if you haven't had them tell you that you know what you're talking about, then you're evil and it's magic. Okay? Free to live as a child of light. Hear ye and listen, O my children. Magic is knowledge and only is law. Be not afraid of the power within thee, for it follows law as the stars in the sky. Know ye that to be without knowledge, wisdom is magic and not of law. So if you don't have knowledge, if you don't have the wisdom, the knowledge is wisdom, and wisdom is magic and not of the law. If you don't see things, if you don't have the mind to know, if you don't have the ears to hear, if you don't have the eyes to see. So if you don't have the knowledge because you're living only in 3D and you're being brainwashed by people, knowledge in and of itself is going to be magic to your eyes and to your knowing. Okay. And you're going to think that it is, in fact, something that is evil because you've been trained to believe that if you look within, if you trust yourself, if you actually start trying to have a personal relationship with the Creator and start communicating with your higher self, with your guides, or anything that is not going and talking to a priest or a rabbi or a imam, then you're in fact talking to someone that's evil. When you have a 50-50 shot when you're talking to another human, that human is evil, no matter what position they're in life. Okay. It's only 14% of the population, but you literally have a 50-50 shot when you meet a stranger that person's either going to be in service to self or in service to others until they actually show their colors to you. So 50-50 shot that when you're talking to a priest, that priest is self-serving until they prove to you that they're not. But they're bound by their control of their religion, which has been edited. All religions, as soon as they became a religion, was edited away from the way that the person who was speaking was trying to teach it. Rarely do you have a religion that continues that way. Today, you're looking at the Christian way, the only religions in the whole pantheon that are continuing the proper way that I'm aware of as a theologian would be, and I haven't investigated it wholeheartedly and 100%, would be the Ethiopians, who have a Bible that they didn't allow the Europeans to edit. They didn't allow the Romans to edit it or King James. And the Eastern Orthodox Church, which also supposedly didn't allow them to do that either. I haven't really investigated it 100%, but this is what I'm finding. So they're closer to the way of Christianity than the Roman Catholic Church, which I was knighted by. Okay, so I'm not coming from a place of atheism. I am a minister. You know that if you know me. And I was knighted by the Holy Roman Catholic Church. Okay, so I'm not coming in front to you and trying to prove that the Roman Catholic Church is not right. It is right. It's just been corrupted from the top. Okay, so the religion in itself has semantical problems that are not right. That's why Luther left and started Lutheranism. Lutheranism is a little closer in that respect. And other Christian religions have also looked at some of the semantics from the Roman Catholic ideology and said, yeah, we don't agree with that. Women should be able to be clergy. They shouldn't have to be just slaves, and people should be able to get married, because I've always said that when the church was taken by Peter, it looks like in this reality it's changed now. So it might have been John that changed a few things, because John wrote the letters to the churches, and that wasn't the way it was until the time shift. But in your mind, you might remember it that way your entire life, because the timeline has shifted. And it's only people who are outside of the shift control that would still remember both ideologies or have both memories. That Peter went to Patmos, not John. Now John went to Patmos and didn't die, and died of old age, and he wrote the letters to the churches. I'm okay with that, because this is where we're trying to go with it anyways. So you're going to see those letters are going to change a little bit. So I won't get into the timeline shift right now, but there was a big timeline shift. Maybe I should talk about that. Just in the last couple of weeks, there was a big timeline shift where things changed in the pantheon of the Christian religion. Okay, 6 months ago, let's do that. Let me run down this, whether you guys like it or not. Some of you will remember it and some of you won't. So those of you who won't remember it, you'll think I'm making it up, and it's okay. It is okay, because it's going to change from what I just now said. But when the timeline shifts, even the words that I say now will change. That's the part that people would have a hard time wrapping their heads around. Back in time before, I think it was in April, or it might have been right around May, I was sitting with the dictionary, which I don't have in this country because it would cost me too much money to bring it in. I probably could have brought it in my suitcase. When I go back, I'm going to grab it, or I'll buy another one. The dictionary of Christian religions. And so it's the one that everybody, somebody put together, and everybody said, this has got the authority, because the person who wrote it didn't write an opinion. They just took everything and said, this is what I found from around the world, and this is what the cross-reference is. So this means this, or this, and this took place at this time, because here we have all of this that show that. So in May of this year, in 2025, in May, I was looking with my brother, who's in a theological college, who was in the Instagram. I don't know if he is. He popped in for a minute. I don't know if he's in there right now, but he's in a theological college, and he's going to be getting his minister license. I have my minister license from 4 different religions. He's going to get it in Christianity. I have one from Christianity. And being knighted by the Roman Catholic Church also gives me a minister title in that church. So in all the Christian churches, I'm a minister. And in the Roman Catholic, I can't call myself father, because you have to go to their seminary to get that title. But I am a minister in that religion. So the same as there, I can do everything else. If a priest is not there, I can do everything as a knight. I can do everything because I'm a paladin. So if there's no priest, I can do everything a priest can do in an emergency. Okay. But if there's a priest around, the priest has to take it. And then because I am a Christian minister at the Universal Life Church in Phoenix, Arizona, in all other Christian religions, they can't say to me, well, you're a Catholic minister, but not ours. I'm both. Okay. So I'm not coming to you from a place of trying to prove that the church is inaccurate. Okay. We're looking into this Bible. We're trying to figure out when Jesus was born, because we're trying to figure out when the 2000th anniversary of Jesus's resurrection, death and resurrection, because that's coming up. Okay. So when we were figuring that out back then, I had said that before that, it was saying that Jesus was born in 7 AD. 7 BC. Okay. BCE if you're non-Christian. BC if you're Christian, because BC means before Christ. And if you're non-Christian, it's before Common Era, BCE. Either way, it's not in AD, which they don't want you to know what AD means, because AD means Anno Domini, and it's Latin, and those words translate into English as in the year of our Lord. So they don't like that either, but they can't do anything about it because all of time is AD now. And it's still listed as that. They haven't come up with a new vernacular for AD yet that I'm aware of to change it over and go, it doesn't mean in the year of our Lord, it doesn't mean Anno Domini, it means today, the boy. You know, they haven't figured out that I'm aware of. To replace that one with BC, they added an E and said it means not before Christ, it means before common era. Okay, so Jesus was born in 7 BC, okay, BCE. If you calculate that, he was 33 years of age when he died. So he didn't die in the year 33 because he was born 7 years before that. So 33 minus 7, right? Then what is that? So look at that. 33, 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26. 2026, because he would have died in the year 26. 2026 would have been the 2,000-year anniversary of Jesus's death and resurrection. Then a timeline shift happened. And I opened that book with my brother and my nephew, and we were looking through, and it said that Jesus was born in 4 BC. Okay, so 33 minus 4, 33, 32, 31, 30, 29. Okay, 2029. Timeline shifted since May. In the time before that until May, time shifted, and that's what it said. If you look that up right now, it says 3 BC. Okay, so 33 minus 3 is 2030. So just in the last 6 months, the timeline has shifted to the point where Jesus's death and resurrection is getting closer to the year 2033. That's going to be really hard to do. I was talking about this yesterday. It's going to be really hard to do because there is no year 0. It's -1 plus 1. Okay, there's your algebra. Comes from that Arab who did that math from negative to positive. And algebra is the name of the person. It's algebrera or something like that, and they call it algebra for short. It was a very, very, very learned and smart man who created this mathematics, who was in fact an Arabic man. So right now, the 2,000-year anniversary of Jesus' death and resurrection will be April 6th, 2030. That'll be the resurrection. April 3rd, 2030 will be the 2,000-year anniversary of Jesus being crucified on the cross, and 3 days later, the 6th of April 2030 will be Jesus's 2,000-year anniversary. That's shifting, and it's getting closer to 0 point. If it hits 0 point, it'll be the year 33, the year 2033. So when you hear us talking about prophecy or the change in the world in 2030, 2032, 2033, the reason that you're hearing that is because that is going to be the death and resurrection, the 2,000-year death and resurrection of Jesus. That is the time the devil was able to rule the earth. People hear that it was 1,000 years, yet it's actually 2,000 years. Why is that? Let's just forget about that for a second and continue with the timeline. Okay, so the 2,000-year anniversary keeps shifting away from us. Why is it doing that? Because it's resetting. Because we're fixing this timeline that's going back to where it should be when the timelines converge. Timelines just converged last week, and it shifted the timeline forward again. Okay, so the closest that we're going to be able to get will probably be 2032, because you're not going to be able to get a year 0. There is no year 0. Okay, so because it's a -1 and a 1, there's not going to be a year that's going to be the year 0, because it's going to be the year 2023, 2030, and then 2031, and then 2032. So if there can't be a year 0, because there isn't one now, because it goes minus BC and then AD. So as soon as AD starts at midnight, at the end of, if it moves to that, okay, there is nothing for the last 2,000 years that's a 0 year. So it's been -1 and then +1. Okay, so there is no 0. So there can't be a representation of 2033 in this reality unless reality shifts more. We'll see, because we're trying to fix that. So we'll see what happens. So either way, going forward, Jesus's death and resurrection, the 2,000-year anniversary of Jesus's death and resurrection will either be in 2030, 30, 31, 32, or probably 2034, because it won't be able to jump to 2033. Right now it's in 2030, and it keeps moving closer to 2033. I believe that we can fix that, and we'll change reality, and you guys will be like tripping on, if you remember, if you're a wanderer, you'll remember the timeline shift. If you're not, you'll go, it's always been that way. There was always a 0 year. What are you talking about? There was always a 0 point. That's what we're going for, is a 0 point. So if we can go back to a 0 year, you can't count that. That's why other people in other cultures that are non-European, they count you as 1 on year 0. When you're born, it's your first year. So when you have a birthday, it's your second year. So you're 2 years old, you're going into your second year because you've already lived. Europeans go, no, I only lived, I'm not a year old yet. So when I get to 1 year, I'm 1, because that's how we count right now. So from 0 to 1 is nothing until you get to 1. But all other people in other cultures go, no, it's actually plus these amount of months on your first year. So then you're on your second year. So they count that as when you're born, you're on year 1. So you're 1 year old. Okay. And that's really complicated for those of you who count things the European way, which you're 0. You're only months old until you get to 1 year, till you get to 12 months. Weird that we count things in multiples of 12 when it does that, but we're not paying really that much of attention to it. Okay. So what is that time in between there? It's 0. Okay. But how you have somebody born on that 0 year, you can't. So what was that back then? Did they know about it, or was it a year? Back then it was just another year, and they didn't have it going before this time and after this time. But somewhere along the line, they were saying that Jesus must have been born at 0 year because he died at 33. And they're trying to say that everything that when he was alive was in the year of our Lord, Anno Domini. So but everything that was before his birth was BC, before Christ. Well, if you can't count that, because he was born in a year. In that year he was born, before he became 1, he was alive. What was that date? And that's why the Hebrews have a wingding about the timeline of the date of 2025, because it's not accurate. You just missed an entire year that you're not even counting. It's -1 + 1. How does that work? -1 + 1 is 0. It's not +1. Right? But see, they tell you that in math. They tell you 1 + 0 is 1. 1 times 0 is 0. Wait, what? Wait, what? You lose everything if you times it by nothing? It becomes nothing? But you keep it if you plus it, if you try to add 0 to something? How does that work? The math doesn't add up. This is why people freak out about that. That's why the enigma of 2. That's why the enigma of 24. That's why the enigma of 28. That's why these enigmas exist, because the math doesn't math when you're counting in multiples of 10. And it doesn't math when you're trying to figure out Jesus, right? So Peter said in 2020, 30, I'll be 59. 2030, I'll be 59. I know, right? In 2030, I didn't even figure that out. We're in 2026 and I'm 58. So add 4 to that, I'll be 62 in 2030. 59 years of age, and I hope that I'm here to see it in the world. You'll be here, brother. So will I, right? Changing, I know. It says changing, I know, Turkey. Well, I don't know. That shouldn't translate that word properly for you, Peter, when you were speaking to your phone. But you'll be alive still, and so will I. We'll both be here to see that year, okay? So right now it's 2030. Right now it's April 6th. April 3rd is the death. April 6th is the resurrection. 2030 right now, according to all scholars. I was just researching this, but that changed, and we're changing the timeline. So I'm hoping to shift it to 2032. It's a feminine number. I would like to see it hit 2033, but then we'll have to change the counting of our time right now. So we're trying to change the timeline to fix that. And I know some of you are like, wait a minute, what? Who's we? There's a whole bunch of us here, billions of us on this earth, are actually helping to reshape the face of the world. That's what it said. That was what was prophesized in the Bible, where God said, I will create the new heavens and the new earth. When you destroy the old earth, I will create the new heavens and the new earth. That is what we're doing now. We're destroying the old world. We're not going to blow it up and kill ourselves and all of that. That's not what that meant. It was a metaphor, and it meant the non-physical. It meant the changing. It meant the time of the devil ruling the earth is over, and therefore we're moving into the age of Aquarius, the age of the feminine energy coming back into play and being prevalent in the psyche of the human species, and therefore the balance back closer to the light, back closer to love, and back closer to the light, away from the darkness, away from being evil and living in the flesh, away from warlike masculine energy and more towards loving, nurturing, caring energy. So that's what's happening now. That's what they're fighting against. That's why they're trying to get the Third World War started. They're trying to get strife. They're trying to get people civil unrest. They're trying to get everybody to hate each other and go to war with each other. White people and black people and brown people and blue people and yellow people and purple people. And you guys all got to hate each other and fear each other and kill each other. And if not, overthrow your governments and try to march on the government so they can kill you all off. And if that doesn't work, alien invasion so we can kill everybody off, or try to take over the government so the government can kill you off. And if that doesn't work, we'll start a third world war and kill everybody and get everybody to kill each other. And that way it resets everybody. That's what they're trying to do now. They're desperate. They're in their death throes, and they're desperate to keep status quo. And they're getting more and more desperate. When they're more and more desperate, they're going to try and do more and more things to lock down the governments, to lock down the countries, to gain control of you, to make you comply with them. And that's why they're doing that. That's why they're doing that with everything. They're going to try and get you to have a social score on an app. They're going to try and, they're doing that in other countries now, where if I were talking like this in Europe, they could arrest me for something that I just said. So words are illegal now, and freedom of speech is illegal now in the UK. Freedom of speech is becoming illegal in most countries. That's a communist way, to where you're afraid to speak and you will only say what the government tells you can say. And that way they keep you in control, and they just keep editing things out. Can't say this, can't say that, can't do this, can't do that. Otherwise, your social score locks you down. You don't get to trade without it. It's the number of the beast. You already have it. It's your cell phone. It's your credit card. It's your bank account. It's the number of the beast. It's already in there. They just haven't locked total control down. Pretty soon they're going to determine whether you can travel. Well, you know what? You said bad things. You went online last night and you posted saying, I don't like the government. Well, because of that, you don't get to buy food now. Okay. That's what they do in communist countries. That's what they're trying to do now everywhere. Okay. They're trying to get you on a digital currency so they can control your money and turn it off when you're not good, when you don't comply. They were doing that in a lot of countries, and I heard they were doing it here in Australia at the time. You either got the shot, or if you were on government money, they stopped your payment to force you to get the shot. They did the same thing, I think, in Europe, but they couldn't do that in America because America has too many guns. They said, fuck off. So those people who refused to get it, they had to try and belittle and berate and tell them that they're the ones that are killing everybody, and they're anti-American, and that they're murderers, and try to guilt them into getting the shot. And some of us resisted anyways. And guess what? Turns out that those of us who resisted getting the shot fared just as good as those who got the shot. we didn't die either. Okay? I didn't get COVID, and I didn't die. Never tested positive for COVID, never got it, never died, never got the shot. Neither did my mother. And everyone's like, you must have been living under a rock and hiding from people. Nope. Lived my life the exact same. Went to everywhere just the same. Didn't even wear a mask. Didn't worry about washing my hands every time I touched somebody or something. I just walked around and acted like everything was fine. And people were like, you're lying. You couldn't have done that because you would have died from the disease. No, man. Myself and billions, not hundreds, billions of people around the earth did the same thing and didn't die. Okay? Not a joke. You can deny it all you want. The facts of history will tell you, because that's what it's starting to tell you. Right? In the United States, they were saying it was a small fraction of people that didn't take the jab. Small fraction. Everybody got it. Now we know that it was less than 100 million people that got it. Out of 380 million people in America, it was like 70 million people got it. Okay? That's it. when it was going, they were telling you that only those 100,000 of you haven't gotten it and everyone else has gotten it. Turns out 3/4 of the nation didn't get it. And I don't know whether it was in every single country. Okay, let me get off of that before they kick me off the air. I'd already gotten thrown off of TikTok if I was talking there. Peter said, yesterday, Friday, was our presidency election. Oh, you had an election day over there. That's cool. I didn't know that. There's election day coming up in America in next month in November. And I think there's an election coming up here in Australia, but I can't vote because I'm not a citizen yet. But I think it's coming up. But don't quote me. I don't know. I haven't learned all the stuff over here yet. Peter says, yesterday, Friday, was our presidential election in Ireland. There's only 2 people running, 2 women running, and everyone in the country has spoiled their vote. But they still get it. They still get it. It doesn't matter what the people say because for a run by Europe, the fact that we can't, if we say it too much, for probably going to be locked up. Oh, okay. So yeah, right. Thousands of people spoiled their vote yesterday, Friday, by big X under the vote and telling the government offers enough's enough. So a bunch of people decided to not vote for any of them and just said no, nothing, voting for X or whatever, right? I mean, yeah, you're not going to play. That's good that they're saying we're not playing. The bad part is they're still going to elect somebody anyways. For those people who did vote, that's just like in America too. People will say they're not going to vote because they can do that over there. Over here in Australia, you have to vote or you have to pay a fine. So people can say they don't want to vote, but then they have to pay a fine by not voting. They have to pay money for it. I don't know that that's a bad idea, but same thing. Some people would go and vote for like Mickey Mouse or something because they didn't like the choices. Because it was the same in America. We end up with 2 choices, one Democrat, one Republican, that are voting. And some people were like, I'm not going to vote because I don't want either one. Problem with that is, what is it? Do you pick the lesser of 2 evils, or, you got to figure out how to change the system so that you don't end up with 2 people that they want, 2 wings of the same bird. That's the unfortunate thing. So I'm glad that people protested, Peter. I am glad that people protested and said, nope, I'm not going to vote. I'm not participating, but you guys have to vote. So they voted and just put an X under the name. This is who I'm voting for, or that's what they signed as. I'm glad that they did that to show that, because when that becomes overwhelming, they'll change their tune. When there's more people that are voting like that, and less people voting, then the government officials will start pandering to those people and they'll start moving back towards that center point. They'll start moving back towards them. And that's what happened in America when they kept getting everybody to vote for the progressives, and then people switched and went completely the opposite because they got tired of living under that ilk. And they didn't think that they were going to do that. And when they did, all of them were running back to the center as fast as they can now because they need to get reelected so they can get their power back because they lost everything. So now they're coming back to the center. And the Republicans did the same thing prior to that. The conservatives were way over on the ultra conservative, and everybody ran away from the conservatives to the progressives. So the conservatives had to come back to the center. Even Donald Trump, who ran last time as an ultra conservative, ran more as a moderate this time. And that's why he was able to become the president. So it took him 4 years off and losing that election to then come and pull back towards the center. And the Democrats went further and further to the left, thinking that was the mind of the people. And the people went right back to the center where they are at, and they voted for Trump. And now the Democrats are like, fuck, running back to the center. So it's good that you guys are doing that in Ireland. It might suck because you're going to get one of the 2 wings of the same bird as your president right now. But the people, when they outweigh the votes that they're getting, they're going to start trying to talk to you. So people within those 2 powers, the conservative party and your progressive party, whatever they're called in that country, those people are going to start running back to the center because there's more people that they can get votes from. And they'll start pandering to the center, and then they'll start trying to pull you one way or the other once they get your votes again. So if we can keep doing that and showing them this is where we are, we're in the balance in the center, and your asses need to stay here from either side and quit running to the wings and get back into here, we can control them. And that's what is happening around the world. So I'm glad to see that your people in Ireland are doing that and saying, we're staying here. We're not running to one of your sides. We're staying here and we're not playing. So you're going to have to go without my vote. they'll try it for a minute and see if they can get away with it. But when people start protesting and they start finding out that people are not listening to either side, they'll both run back to the center as fast as possible. Peter said, yeah, we had a vote here for a new president, and we put an X on our board and our cards, and we should not apply. Well, see, that's good. You're not going to play. And eventually that's what Mahatma Gandhi taught. Sit down, tell them, no, I'm not playing your game. Don't do it, refuse. And when enough people do that and they get tired of that, they get tired of being dictated to and being, the more they lock down a social score, the more they're going to cause a rebellion in their own country. Okay. So they're going to have to immediately go enforce it and show their hand and do exactly what the communists did in Russia, the communists in China, and the communists in North Korea, and the communists in Venezuela. They're going to have to put military on the streets and start brutalizing the citizens. Okay. So as soon as they do that, the only way they can do that in America is they have to get rid of the guns. First thing, guns have to be illegal, and they have to confiscate the guns, because if they don't, they'll never become a socialist country, and they'll never become a communist country, because the people will resist, because they have the guns and the wherewithal to do so. In a country where they've taken away your guns, it makes it easier because they already have you at a disadvantage. Once they decide to start stormtrooping at you, you have nothing to do about it. So the only thing that you have them to do is either go into a physical panic mode of a physical overthrow, which is the worst thing to do, because they'll just kill everybody. And that's what they want you to do, so they can kill everybody, is to go into some sort of rebellion that way, in a physical, conventional way. The best way of doing it is exactly what Jesus was trying to teach. And I know you guys are like, oh, here he goes with the Christianity thing. But every person in every religion was teaching you the same thing. Physical uprising is not the way to defeat tyranny. The way to defeat tyranny is to say no, to be the adult and go, no, we're not doing that. And then they say, you either do it or I kill you. Then kill me. And if you're not afraid to die for what you're believing in, they'll lock you up and put you in prison. That's what the English did to the Irish. And they would lock people up and put them in jail and hold them indefinitely until they gave in. What did that cause? That the English learned that caused more people to move to the cause. Okay. So you can only hold on to that so long and put people in prison. So the same thing happens with a social score and people saying, now you don't have the right to say what you want. And eventually they're going to start locking people up, and people are going to start getting mad about it. And they're going to go, really? That person just said, I don't like the government, and you are going to put him in prison for that? People are going to start going, hold on, that's just wrong. We're free people. And then they're going to go, no, you're not. You haven't been free for a long time, because they're going to have to show their hand. So the more they lock down control, the more they're going to drive people to the opposite. It's just how desperate do the people get? Will someone like myself say, you don't have to get physical, just sit down and tell them no? What are they going to do? Beat you and kill you? They'll kill some of us that are in charge to shut us up. But if you guys continue and someone else rises and you just keep sitting down, they can't kill us, because they'll know that as soon as they do, they make you a martyr. They're already onto that. They already know that that's how it works. So you tell them, no, we're not playing your game. No. And then you start watchdogging them at a low level. You start watching them. That's how you change. You change things by doing that. Okay. That's how you do that. Okay. Let's see if we can get through this, because my wife is going to be getting off. I just realized what time it is. She's going to be getting off work in a minute to come home for lunch. So let me go ahead and start, because we only have a little bit left of this chapter, and we'll get through it. And then I'll be able to finish here when my wife gets home. All right. So let's continue. So getting back to this. Right. So, but know ye that ever ye by your knowledge can approach closer to the place of the sun. So by your knowledge, by you moving upwards. Okay. Be not afraid of the power within you, within thee. Right. Now, let me put this on. Did I put it up in full screen? I'm not. I'm reading it to you. You're looking at me. Let me put this up here. All right. So hear ye and listen, O my children. Magic is knowledge, and only is law. But be not afraid of the power within thee, for it follows law as the stars in the sky. Know ye that to be without knowledge, wisdom is magic and not the law. So without knowledge, wisdom just seems like magic, and you think that we're crazy. But know ye that ever ye by your knowledge can approach closer to the place of the sun. List ye, my children, follow my teachings. Be ye ever seeker of light. Shine in the world of men and all around thee, a light on the path that shall shine among men. Follow ye and learn of magic. Know that all force is thine if thou wilt. So anything that you want with faith. Jesus said the same words that you see here. If you had but one mustard seed of faith, you could literally move mountains. You could tell that mountain to move from here or to over there, and it will do that. This is exactly the same words being said to you in a different way. Knowledge is the key. Knowledge is the power to the universe. And with knowledge, know that all force is thine if thou wilt. So everything in the world and in the universe can be yours if you understand the knowledge of how to work this matrix and how to manifest things in it.
Know ye that to be without knowledge, wisdom is magic and not of the law. But know ye that ever ye by your knowledge can approach closer to a place in the sun. List ye, my children, following my teaching, be ye ever seeker of light. Shine in the world of men all around thee, a light on the path that shall shine among men. Follow ye and learn of my magic. Know that all force is thine if thou wilt. Fear not the path that leads to knowledge, but rather shun ye the dark road. Light is thine, O man, for the taking. Cast off the fetters and thou shalt be free. Know ye that thy soul is living in bondage, fettered by fears that hold ye in thrall. Open thy eyes and see the great sunlight. Be not afraid, for all is thine own. Fear is the lord of the dark Arulu. To he who never faced the dark fear, I know that fear has existed, created by those who are bound by their fears. Shake off thy bondage, O children, and walk in the light of the glorious day. Never turn thy thoughts to the darkness, and surely ye shall be one with the light. Man is only what he believeth, a brother of darkness or a child of the light. Come through into the light, my children, walk in the pathway that leads to the sun. Hark ye now, and list to the wisdom. Use thou the word I have given unto thee. Use it, and surely thou shalt find power and wisdom, and light to walk in the way. Seek thee, and find the key I have given, and ever shalt thou be a child of the light.
Okay, so literally everything that Jesus said right there, okay? Everything that every person in any philosophical, spiritual way told you that became a religion, all right? So walk your path, walk in the light, look towards the light, move yourself upwards towards the light, become a better person, be in service to others, love people, and you will find your way back to the Creator. That is exactly what was said to you. All right, guys, have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys either on TikTok when I go live there or on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram when I go live there next time. All right, you guys have a great day. Have a great weekend. Have a great evening, afternoon, morning, or tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world. All right, guys.